going on, everyone? It's Nina and Patty. Welcome to my channel on this Sunday. This is the Tulsa King spoiler review. I am joined here with my great panel. We've got Nerdrotic in the house. What's going on, Gary?
What's going on? That you brought me in so fast, I was about to burp and I had to like hold it, and now it's stuck. Damn it! It's like
so
holding a
sorry.
sneeze. Hi, everyone. How you doing? Thanks. How's it going, Nina?
Now you got an air bubble.
I know,
oh
right?
God, I hate that feeling.
To match the one in between my ears.
Damn it, Nina.
I know, right? Oh my God. I should have started with like 20 clips before we started.
Good. No, don't. It's fine. Hey, you know why I did that? You know, well, I mean, it's been a while since we brought the clips back on Friday Night Tights, but the reason I did it was an experiment and it worked. So I just wanted to let you guys all know, like, play clean clips or beep out your F words in the first 2 minutes. And then we had like Ryan dropping F bombs after the 2 minutes. Didn't affect it at all. So
there you go.
Fully monetized. So they are only looking at that first 30 seconds to 2 minutes.
Excellent. So everybody keep the F words in check for another 30
sound
seconds.
funny when they sound funnier when they're beeped anyway, I think.
Yeah, well, it leads to imagination. What did they really say?
What did he really say?
I 100% agree with that because Trailer Park Boys is one of my all-time favorite shows. And when they bleeped the F words, which was like literally every second, it was the funniest thing ever.
Or South Park,
Yeah, South Park.
When they're sitting there like, God, and the horse that you, and it's big up your, yeah.
It's the best. Well, we also have Tom here. How are you, Tom?
Hey, yo, I'm excellent. How you doing?
We're doing good. We're doing good.
We're not going to get any of that today.
Not at all. No.
Good to see you. Thanks for being here.
No, I'm glad to be here. Sly is one of my favorite actors, and this was a surprise, and it led me down the Taylor Sheridan rabbit hole, and I'm proud of that it has because this is a good entry point into it, I think.
Yeah, and you were the first person to tell me about this show, and I when I watched it, I loved it so much. I was like, oh, I gotta have Tom on here because he's the first person that brought it up, and I know you're a huge Stallone fan. And because of you, I also watched Rocky. Like
oh wow, you've never seen Rocky?
I'd never seen it before, and I watched it. I gotta watch the rest still. I know, but I watched it. I watched the first Rocky. It was great.
The first one's a masterpiece, right? Like,
yeah, so good. So good. Stallone's great. But we also have a really lovely lady here, a lovely Rose lady. It's Miss Teresa Martin. What's going on?
Hi, I'm a happy camper. I adored this show, and I am horrified that you only just recently saw Rocky and haven't seen Rocky 2, 3, 4.
There's
you haven't seen Rocky in space? What's wrong with you?
What the hell?
I know.
He single-handedly saved the human race after he stopped communism.
Yeah. Rocky 4.
That's like the original
boxing match.
Right, he did.
That's like the original Fast and the Furious. And
no, we're kidding. He never did go to space, but like he did single-handedly end the Cold War. Yeah, he did almost go to Mars once, though.
Wow.
We should totally do a comic on that. Rocky in space.
I think it would sell.
Hey, yo.
Yeah, Chuck Dixon to write.
Get Chuck Dixon to write. They froze Rocky and de-aged him a little bit, and they had to bring him back.
Yo, Earth, I did it!
Oh my gosh, that is the best idea I've heard in years. I'm gonna do it. I'm stealing the whole idea.
Of Demolition Man to it, you know.
Yeah.
If I could change, they could change. We could change.
We also have Script Doctor in the house. What's going on, Script Doctor?
Oh, I'm just happy to be here to talk about a great, fun show, and with such an awesome panel too to discuss it, because we're all gonna have some very interesting takes. I'm looking forward to some of Gary's takes with regards to the difference between jail and prison, because that was always a fascinating aspect of Tulsa King.
Yeah, I was glad they actually made the difference, right? Like, or brought up that there was a difference at least. Yeah, because usually shows don't.
No. I'm glad. Well, I'm glad that you're here, Script Doctor. I'm glad everyone's here. So for you guys in the chat, just briefly once again, this is going to be a spoiler review of Tulsa King. So if you haven't seen it, but if you're, interested in watching it, I highly recommend you go watch it first, then come back and watch this review. But if you've seen it, you're in the right place. So make sure you smash the like, share the stream, tell everyone we're talking about this awesome show. And without further ado, we're going to get into it now. So I guess initial thoughts first. Gary, what are your first initial thoughts of Tulsa King?
Oh, saw it on a whim. I heard Tom talking about it, and so I had it in the back burner. Like, okay, I'm gonna watch this because I love Sylvester Stallone too. Big fan, been a big fan all my life. And we just found a very brief pocket of time where we weren't bitching about woke Hollywood and there was no Rings of Power stuff, and we had the holidays, and my wife and I just like, hey, let's watch a couple episodes, and we burned through it in like a day and a half.
Wow. Same here with my husband.
Well, and there was one episode left that we didn't know how many episodes there were. I was like, is there 9? Is there 10? But then we watched the ninth one thinking, well, I guess there could be another one, but I kind of like that ending. I like how they ended that, and it turned out to be the one. So overall, highly recommend. Has no business being that good. It's funny. It's really funny. Like I was laughing a lot more than I thought I would. The cast is great.
Great writing.
Including Martin Starr from Silicon Valley, who's freaking great in it. God, I love that guy.
My God.
So
Gary,
he's not in Spider-Man movies.
Real quick point. When he, in the final episode, when that one guy asked him, hey, where did you learn all this stuff anyway? And he said, I was in a startup for 5 years. I lost my shit. They were saying that he's Guilfoyle.
I know.
I was laughing so hard. I don't know if you guys, any one of you, have you guys seen Silicon Valley, Tom?
No, but it's actually on my list from Gary. He told me I had to see it because Mike Judge is a part of it. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, man, it's so good.
It is so good. It is the Office Space and Idiocracy of television. It is that good.
It really is, and I just couldn't believe that they put that reference in there, and I was screaming laughing when they said that, and it was so freaking funny. What a good humorous reference, and like just just for the lore people, like it was just really, really cool. What about you, Tom? Initial thoughts?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't sure what to think offhand. I mean, it was one of those shows that when I first saw the previews and all that business, I knew it wasn't going to be a show that normally we'd talk about in our circle of shows, right? And I got into it, and then there was that whole, like, what's this thing with pronouns speech that he gives. I think it was episode 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And it was just hilarious. So I started telling people about the show. I'm like, this show is basically Grand Theft Auto, the show. Like, I want a Grand Theft Auto now based on this show. It's like, this is like the closest we could ever get to the similar scenarios we get in that game. But no, overall, like, the show is amazing. It's nonstop. What I love about it is it's Taylor Sheridan's not afraid to let shit happen. Right?
Yeah.
I'm so sick of these shows where we sit here for 3 or 4 episodes and nothing fucking happens. They lead up to it or they tease something. Great example, not to jump too far ahead, but like you guys just talked about the bit where, he's talking to not the FBI, the ATF. And they cut away. So you're like, oh shit, is he going to turn on Sly? And then you have that scene later leading back to that where he flips around the computer and he shows he's been doing what he's been doing. So you're like, oh no, he's got his own game already. He's just been kind of keeping, it under the, keeping it under his close to the vest kind of thing. So like, I was worried about him flipping on Sly. That's a great example of shit happening quick. I didn't have to question that. Same thing with when, Sly finds out about his daughter, which I'm sure we'll get to later. Quick resolution. We didn't have to wait. They didn't drag that out for exactly 3 fucking seasons for something to finally happen, to me, and it's indicative of what we see in Yellowstone and some of his other shows. But what you guys have brought up that's different is this is Taylor's comedy, right? It's not a comedy. It's not a flat out comedy, but what it is it shows you not only can he do this other stuff, but he can also have a sense of humor, especially he knows when to work with a guy like Sylvester Stallone. This is tailor-made for him. It is, Sly has said it himself in a couple interviews now. He's like, I even tried out for an extra in The Godfather and I couldn't even get a friggin' role. It's like, I look more Italian than anybody else does, but it's like now he finally gets to play a gangster, and you can tell he's just relishing every single moment of it, and it's brilliant. I hope he gets an Emmy nomination at least for it. But anyway, I can't wait to hear what Script and
Tom,
Teresa think.
when you said like awards, by the way, like not that awards mean anything anymore or anything like that, but honestly, Sylvester Stallone deserves every award for this show. I thought
he got a
was
reality
incredible.
award that I'm going to watch, by the way.
Oh,
The
which
reality
one?
show, yeah.
Yeah, he's doing a reality show.
With
He
his
is?
daughters and
He
wife,
is, yeah.
His
I didn't
daughters
know
have
that.
a podcast, though. They already have a reality show.
They do?
They have a
Oh.
podcast. They've interviewed him for it.
Okay. Well, hey, now we get a reality show, which won't be scripted at all during the writer's strike.
Yeah.
Oh wow, I didn't even know that. That's good to know. Script Doctor, tell me your initial thoughts of Tulsa King.
Tulsa King is actually a byproduct of everything Taylor Sheridan learned making a bunch of mistakes in Yellowstone. Now, Yellowstone is still a great show. I'm not dissuading it. But there is one aspect of Yellowstone that takes 3 to 4 seasons before you find out why this thing is a thing. And when people did find out about it, they got really upset that it took so long. And so what he did in Tulsa King is he's like, I'm not going to do that anymore.
Right.
Oh,
And we're very happy that he didn't, because you get more out of it. You're able to mine it more. You're able to do something with it. I love the fact that they let Stallone play his actual age, that he's not playing a younger man. I think it's really important because one of the coolest aspects of this show, which is also a little bit tragic, and gives us our sympathy for him, is that he spent a third of his life in jail or in prison, to be more accurate. As a result of this, because he spent so much more time outside, he doesn't get as institutionalized in the system, so he's able to acclimate to the outside world a lot faster than other people that get in when they're in their 20s and then are there for like 45 years or what have you. His personality is very much defined. I love the fact that Taylor Sheridan follows the actor's rule of finding complex characters and putting them in very simple plots, as opposed to what we get with other production companies with other shows where the plots are obscenely complicated and the characters are one-dimensional and boring. I love the fact that he is using the fish out of water trope with Sylvester Stallone to mock what has changed over the past 25 years in a very clever way. And I also like how he establishes character actors that we don't see much of, like that work frequently, but we don't see much of in definitive roles. I was talking with Nina about this a while back. Jonathan Joss, who plays Badface, stands out, and he's only in like 3 moments throughout the entire series, but you just want to see more of him. And he basically treats every character as if they're actually important. There's not really a throwaway line. If there is, it comes from a character, and they give something for that actor to do to make it have an impact. It's not something that should be passive. And I think that's one of the things that allows his writing to stand out, and why Paramount has pretty much backed him on anything he does, because they realize they need him to keep afloat financially. And that's my general opinion about the show.
Excellent. And then Teresa, what are your initial thoughts of this show?
Well, I thought it was absolutely superb. The only show that I think is comparable to this for me is Cobra Kai. And in a way, I felt it was like Cobra Kai meets Just Call Saul or Breaking Bad. The fish out of water, the kind of making fun of things, his little group of misfits that he was turning into mobsters and trying to train them to use guns. It really gave me a feel for that. But also the transformative nature of the character. And at the end, when he gave kind of that little speech, I know we'll get there, but I was just like, dang, this is a character I really care about. And I'm not a druggie, never have been, never smoked or anything like that, but I was relating to everyone. And as far as Sylvester Stallone goes, this is easily, in my opinion, his best performance since Rocky. And maybe some people will want to fight me for saying this. It might be better than Rocky. The range of emotion that this man showed, it blew me away. I know we'll get to it, but there's especially one particular scene. I'm like, holy shite, this man is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think I know what scene you're talking about, and I definitely had tears in my eyes when that scene was happening. But yeah, so like the show starts obviously with this man being in prison, Dwight David Manfredi being in prison for 25 years for taking a fall for something he didn't really do or have any control of. Well, he kind of did, but he didn't. He was
For making a choice.
for making a choice.
As
That's
I
right.
said before the show, or did I say it during the intro? I can't remember. I think it was before the show. I said the basic idea, the basic theme that keeps repeating itself throughout this show is no good deed goes unpunished.
Mm-hmm.
And the other theme is choices and how it affects whether it, and a lot of people are choosing between the family, their own family, or the mafia family side of things. So those are the two main themes that are kind of sprinkled throughout the show. So like it's built on that first idea is that, you know, no good deed goes unpunished show. So we're kind of given this idea that he's gone, and it's in several fold, right? Because he's been in prison for 25 years. They tried to kill him in prison, we find out. And he's also kept his mouth shut. So he kept his word. He's one of the few guys that actually has done what most guys normally wouldn't. And, you know, he made a choice to do this. And now, you know, he thinks when he's getting out, he's going to get his just dues, which, you know, no, that sets up the whole show.
Doesn't quite happen. And I love even the little bits of the show where it starts out and he's driving, he's being driven to the place where he's supposed to meet the mob family. And like there's like this little scene here where he sees these people on like Oculus and he's just kind of shakes his head. Like there's just like so many of these little things that is so relatable, especially like to the older generation, because it's like it's just such a different world from 25 years ago. And those are the things that you really it really hits home with like even me, that I'm like, oh wow, like this is it's just so well done in that sense. And yeah, so he doesn't really get his due after 25 years. He gets driven to the family's house, and the family's like, you know what? After all you've done for us, you're cool and all, but you know what? Why don't you go start some stuff in Tulsa? Like you can go in Tulsa and take over.
Basically, the butt crack of nowhere to them. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And
there's no opportunities in New York anymore, but we're setting up business in Tulsa, and we want you to lead it. Like that's basically what they've given him the charge for.
Yeah, and and you can already tell the little like kind of like quiffs that he has with what was his name, Chicky, which is this dude right here, and like in this
which
scene,
is actually
for example,
his godson. We find out,
yeah, it's his godson, and he says like, you know, have a seat at the table, and he's like, oh, what, at the head of the table? And he's like, no, that's the ass of the table. So there's like these kind of like little quips that you get. Oh, like this Chicky guy doesn't really like him at all. So you kind of get this stuff. And then of course he ends up punching out this other dude, Vince. And that becomes a whole thing. Cause now like after a bit, he has to pay $100K to kind of like smooth things over. Cause Chicky tells him like, you know, you can't punch out like one of the heads of the family. Like you can't do that kind of thing. Gary, like, can you go into a little bit about what like kind of like what Script Doctor brought up? Like what is the difference between what he's talking about in terms of like the prison and slash like the you know jail. Like jail
the county, like,
yeah.
The jail system is run by the city or the county of wherever you live here in the States. And you can only stay in it for a maximum of a year sentence, at least in California, at least when I was there. So if you get sentenced to 364 days, you're going to do county jail. If you get sentenced to 365, you're going to prison. So it's got to be under a year, and it's a 1 day under a year. You get time off, but one's a lot easier. One's, you know, the county isn't, it's not fun. It's shitty, but you're not in there with lifers or people doing a dime or, you know, 20 years or 25 years. And they do have separate levels, but they intermingle a lot. So it's just a lot more dangerous, a lot more institutionalized, and that keeps you alive. I mean, essentially, but like doing 25 years, and if you know, it's going to make you hard. It's going to fuck you up and institutionalize you. And the whole thing that's keeping him going is, hey, I stayed quiet because what we find out later is he does commit a murder, but like he was kind of saving a guy, and it's Chicky who fucked up, and he just did for the family a third, he was that loyal. He did 25 years of his life for the family, and he expects to be treated like royalty in the back, and they don't. They disrespect him the minute he gets there. And you later on learn that he kind of suspects something. He's being banished for one. And it's because of nepotism. Chicky is the big boss's son.
Mhm.
And they're also, hey, thank you. My son delivering my lunch.
Aw,
Isn't that nice?
Hi, Logan.
Good
Good to
son.
have kids. Good son.
Mhm.
No. So the biggest difference is ultimately the danger you're in. So when you're in prison for however long a time, you sleep with one eye open. Everything is strategic. Like, this is how I'm going to eat today. You don't get comfortable. Some people might. I didn't. I think about who I'm eating with, where I'm going to eat, where my back is going to be.
Well,
and
not only that, the like luxuries you have in jail
Yeah.
differ from prison as well, obviously.
greatly. Well, I don't know. I think you get
Well-
internet now. That's insane.
You
to
do
me.
well. I think it depends on like good behavior or something. I read a couple articles about it.
Probably in
about,
like,
yeah. It depends
well,
on
they
your-
have camps, right? So they have
Mhm.
minimum security and maximum security. And you get
Yeah.
TV anywhere. You can get a TV. You can get a little black and white. I had a TV.
Can I give a
Um,
shout out to his reading material in there though? He did have good books. He had Faust and Middlemarch.
Yeah, that's
And
where I
he
did
got-
like the bulk of my reading was in there. Like
Yeah.
I was a shitty reader, and other than comic books until I got in, and then I just read.
Well,
for
that's
2 years
pretty much
straight.
how you can.
And Faust might be a
spend the
little
time.
on the nose, a little on the nose with the whole, but it still
Yeah.
works.
Well, and just to kind of like clarify also again, so he not only he killed two people. So he killed two people. One of them was the one that Gary mentioned because that's what he went to prison for. And then that Richard McLeavy is the guy he killed. And then the second one was a self-defense in prison because they tried to
that's right.
flip him
I
6
forgot.
times.
Mhm.
And so he ended up killing somebody. Now we don't know that story. Maybe at some point we'll see.
Oh,
a
We
prequel or
just know
something.
that it was I don't know. Does he know yet? I can't remember in the show if he knows yet that it was them that tried to have him killed.
He finds
not.
out through
Yeah, he does
Manny.
find out.
He
Okay,
finds out
that's
through
right.
Manny because Manny tells him when he tracks him down, he tells him, "Hey, Pete's the one that tried to kind of have you killed
Okay,
because
yep.
they thought that you were gonna flip." And then he's like, "But I didn't flip." And he's like,
Mhm.
"Yeah, but
cool
they thought you were
thing-
gonna."
About season 1 is Dwight is a wrecking ball. Wherever he
Yeah.
goes, he's
Yep.
creating freaking chaos. And every time he tries to like damn one problem, the river breaks over here.
Mhm.
And that's where it kind of ends. But you see that he's not the entire wrecking ball. You see the corruption everywhere else. You start to see it. So they have a lot to play with here. Because it was a great character arc of just a guy who was broken and lost, kind of putting together a family in a sense, trying to find a purpose in life, especially later in the life. And you're right, Script. I love that they played him at 75 when during the sex scene was freaking hilarious, dude.
Oh my god!
Like, he finds out his age.
Yeah, when she finds out that he's 75 and then she flips out, I was
Yeah.
like, "Girl, you didn't care because he was
You
clearly
still
he
look
was
like
fucked
a
up."
hard 55.
Yeah, yeah.
She slept with daddy.
Yeah. Well, then we find out she's got fucking daddy issues later on, which is
yeah.
even more brilliant.
I know. It's like it's so crazy. But one of the again, this show is so filled with humor and I didn't expect it to be this funny. And one of the first scenes that was so funny, I was laughing so hard because this happened to me, and this is why I say this show is so relatable, even to someone like me. I'm not a 75-year-old man, but I can relate to this scene when he gets off the plane in Tulsa and he walks out of the airport.
Oh.
And he gets hit by one of those massive like grasshoppers or whatever. And this lady's like, "Oh, it's a grasshopper." And he's like, "It's bigger than my cock." And then chick sprays like holy water on him. And she's like, that guy. And then Tyson's like, "Relax, it's just holy water." But it was so funny because when I first moved to Cancun, they had a locust infestation. So like when I got off the plane from freaking Canada where we don't have that kind of stuff. And then like I see these giant flying bugs that are like freaking locusts, and it was the most disgusting and insane thing I'd ever seen. One of them bumped into me. I almost like died. I was like, I can't do this. It was just one of those things. So I really related to him and his reaction. Like it's just like, oh, what the fuck is that? It was really funny.
I thought you were going to say that you related. Oh, sorry.
No,
I thought you were going to say that you related to the missionaries trying to get you in the airport.
Well, that too, but they don't have that in Cancun, thank God. But this was funny though. This was a really, really funny scene. And then of course he meets Tyson, which is this dude right here.
Yeah.
And that, like, I swear, like every exchange he has with Tyson is so well written, just so well written. Like that whole gangster thing.
What you have here is, like I was saying earlier, is kind of like, you know, you have another thing in the show too, which is each one of these characters will parallel a part of who Sly's character is, Dwight's character too. Like this is obviously a mirror of Dwight when he was younger, right? And Tyson's facing the choices of, do I go with my new family, the mob, or do I go with my family, which also mirrors Sly's past, where he chose the mafia family over his real family, which we come to learn the repercussions of through his daughter down the road here. So again, here this is a character that we meet is, again, a lot of these characters are mirrors of him.
Well, it's not just his daughter, it's his brother and his sister as well.
His whole family, exactly, yeah.
Beautiful moment between his siblings. That's absolutely fantastic. The other part too, which I also really liked, to go with regards to the family, is the fact that the head mob boss, who he treats as a brother, those two actually still have a loyalty to each other. It's basically just politics from their perspective, but it is Chicky that's actually kind of messing around with the entire system that's causing all these series of events. Because what's fantastic is the dad Chicky's father clearly knows that Chicky screwed up and that his godfather took the rap for him.
Yep.
Like, solved the problem and took the repercussions. And every once in a while, Chicky's father will make a little, nudge about his son not being as much of a man as himself, or
exactly.
Yes.
And
like the big moment is when they find out about the whole thing with the daughter, and sorry, Script, but the father even says, if you were half the fucking man Dwight was, this never would have happened in the first place.
If he hadn't said that,
he had no idea. Like it was a big secret kept away specifically from, like, I think Chicky didn't know, and I'm pretty sure, like, the father definitely didn't know, but I'm pretty sure Chicky didn't know either, and he found
I don't
out.
think any of them knew. I think
anyone who did knew is dead already.
Maybe Vince, but other than that, I don't think Chicky knew. I don't think Pete knew. I don't think any of them knew about what happened with the daughter. Speaking of what happened with the daughter, like, I was having a conversation because I was watching this with my husband, and I was like, I don't get it. Okay, so like, did he grape her, or did he make her do things to him sexually for money? I didn't understand what was going on.
I think it was more along the grape lines from what I gathered. Yeah.
Oh,
took advantage of her one night. He would show up constantly and then act like it's kind of, again, we see him, how he's always nice to Dwight. It's kind of that similar thing. I think that's setting up the whole idea is, he always pretended to be there to be the nice guy, and then one night took advantage of her, basically, and that's what happened.
And he probably left a lot of money to justify that it wasn't that. It was a transaction. And
so if she ever brought it up, then he'd be like, oh, no. Like, this is what really happened. And they would believe him over her, obviously. So, yeah.
Yeah. And it was really interesting to me that they made it like some rando dude too, because they kind of set up this whole thing with Vince, right? Like, it was like, oh, but it's just like, it's Nico, this other guy. Cause I wasn't even paying attention to that scene until like when he goes into the hospital. Cause I think it was episode 6. When he goes to the hospital to meet them, and then like Nico's there, and then he has that conversation, and then she's like, oh, do you remember Nico? And he's just like, yeah, I just saw him at the hospital. And I was like, which one's Nico again? Like, it just like it wasn't one of those things where you expected it to be either Chicky or Vince or like one of the main guys.
What Tom was talking about, we're so trained to like, oh, they're planting a seed here, 3 seasons, we'll see the payoff. And no, we saw the payoff pretty quick. Lots of payoffs, and that was all to service the main character.
And Vince was kind of a red herring too. Sorry,
exactly.
No, you're right. You're right, Tom.
I think
It's
it
the
was
traditional red herring. We weren't looking for that. We're so used to, like Gary said, looking for that long game that we didn't pay attention to this other guy kissing Dwight's ass,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and that should have been the red flag instead.
Well, I mean,
Yep.
there's two guys that were kissing Dwight's butt, and
Right.
but the thing is, like, we just thought, oh, it's a pattern of respect and whatnot, and obviously the guy that disrespected Dwight would be the one that'd be messing with his family, and he's like, no. Sometimes you can't trust anyone in this organization, which is why I mean, I love the scene in the hospital, like the Chickie's dad, he's suffering from cancer, looks like he's beating it, he's recovering, and Stallone is ready to just kill him right there if he knew this happened. And
Oh, that was such
he
a good
gets that
scene.
honesty out of him, and he's like, okay, you and we're still good. Like even after that, like you could tell that they were still good. It's like, okay, you kept your promise. This guy's what screwed up. He's mine. I don't screw the rules. I don't care. It's over. It's done. That's my little girl. I lost 25 years, and on top of that, you tell me this, done. And I love the fact that it's the one rule of screenwriting, which is keep your characters active. Don't ever delay the inevitable unless you can really, really pay it off. But you have to keep your characters active, and we as the audience get to benefit from that, and then the actors get to benefit from that, especially when you're dealing with a guy like Sly, who he's 75, he's of age, he's pretty healthy, but you never know, tragedy could happen. Don't leave a dangling carrot that you're not going to be able to bite into when you're dealing with actors. Just throwing that out there.
Right.
Yeah, that beat down when he went and beat the living shite out of him. I thought he was just going to pull a scene from The Godfather where he just kicks the crap out of him. But when he started melting his face, crunching his jaw, I got to admit, my dark side came alive, and I was cheering that on. It's like that's
brutal.
It was
Yeah.
brutal in the best way because it was
Yes.
so real. Like, and that's why I really love that scene, Script Doctor, where you talk about when he went to the hospital and he kind of like looked into his eyes and he's like, "Did you know?" And he's like, "Oh, you didn't know," because he could tell, like he knew. And he was about to kill him. Like if he was like, if you knew and you didn't do anything about this, like
if he'd have flinched once, he'd have been dead. Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I'm talking about with regards to his performance, because his performance was so powerful. Like this just scene is like where it's like I don't know, he put everything in there, and it really made you feel for what he's going through.
And back
as a
to the
father.
beat down, it's more brutal to us because, you know, again, whoever directed the episode, I give him kudos, and, you know, all the creatives behind it to make sure that we did not see hardly any of it. The most brutal aspects of it are completely covered underneath the screen. It's all in our brains. We hear the noises.
Yeah.
We didn't actually see what he did.
That was a great scene. I like it when they
the face.
Yeah.
I like it when they do that because I don't want to see I don't like over the top gore and violence, but like, you know, I can get it. Like I'll read it till the end. You know what I mean? Like I don't need to.
You can
see,
still
like,
make something satisfying like that and not have to be visceral. Right?
Exactly.
It's also
like,
cheaper too.
Look
Absolutely
at this scene.
cheaper.
Look
But
at the fear in this guy's eyes. Like he's just like, oh, I'm about to die. Like he knew. He's like, I'm about to freaking die right now if I don't say the right thing. That was so good because he's like the mob boss, man. Like that guy, he doesn't answer to nobody, you know. Let me get a couple of these super chats real quick. Trucker Rob, thank you so much for the $50. That's so generous of you. Thank you, love you too. And just says love you, Nina. Thank you very much. And we got Russell Hall for $5. Says good news, Gary. Last night that Star Wars girl chose pineapple pizza for her one food to eat. If she were locked in a cell, you're winning them over. Oh my god.
Am I though? Really? I mean, locked in a cell. What was the other choice? People?
Yeah.
I mean, thanks though, Russell. Like,
you send me a pineapple pizza right now, I'll eat it. I don't care. I love it.
hell yeah, Script.
Ew, no way.
Yeah, better than
But I
like
got
I
you.
loved it too.
No.
But yeah, like if you put the question up to me and I'm stuck in a cell, like, do we get pineapple pizza or people? It's like, well, I don't know. I might have to find out how people taste.
Oh no! Oh
Like
my
chicken.
God, Tom. No, I'll take the pineapple pizza over the people.
More like pork, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
that's what I've heard.
Way closer. Sensei, thank you so much, Sensei Sharkbait, for $4.99. Gary, your thoughts on his transition, like having nobody stand behind him? Are you talking about in the scene
Sly,
where he's like,
I
oh,
think,
it's like
yeah.
when Sly was like, I don't want to have anyone standing behind me when he got to that table.
Oh yeah. That is real. That is very real. That is very, very real. I wouldn't sit for years. I would sit at the back of a movie theater, at the very back, and at the restaurant I'd sit in the back corner. Yeah, that's just the thing. It takes a minute to get over that, but yeah, you don't want people that's something you're constantly on guard for.
Right.
I would imagine
For good
so.
reason.
Yeah.
But
For 101 reasons.
They got a lot of stuff, right, especially just the acclimating. Like I wasn't in for 25 years. I was on, like 3 years total of my life, 3.5 years total of my life, give or take, with some jail time added in. But like just the 2 years I was in, and I watched TV all the time and I was reading. When I got out, I went in in 91, and I got out at the it was early 91. I went in, and I got out the last month of 93, and I went to a friend's house who I hadn't seen in a long time, and he's playing this game called Myst on a computer, and I'm like, what the hell? I mean, I knew there was computer games, but he's like talking about the internet. I'm like, what's the internet? What's an internet?
Al Gore invented it.
Yeah,
Look
I
at
had
that.
so that day I found out about the internet, and I'm like, oh wow. Like that, then I felt like I was away for 10 freaking years. I was like, when did that happen? I don't
Wow.
remember seeing that on TV, but it was still new, and yes, I know the internet had been around for 10 years.
Well, no,
other
Script pointed
places,
out
but-
the good point of is it works out perfectly for his age, because like you could go to jail for 20 or prison. Sorry, I just did it there myself. You go to prison for about 20 years, almost any other time in the last 100 years of history, and you can still get out, know how to drive a car, know how to work a phone, know how to turn on a radio and TV, probably know how to use most appliances, etc. Not have that big of a problem as far as that acclimation. Now, the world itself could be a different story, but this is the point in history where he would have went in, where things like the internet and stuff like that were being talked about. But now him coming out, cell phones are brand fucking new, TVs are new, everything's new, everything's like it would be like, like Marty walking into 2015
Yeah.
in Back to the Future for him. And in some sense, not in the sense that he, he's not aware of the outside world, like Gary said, but you can tell just from like what Therese was pointing out, like with the whole thing, like, when he's in prison, clearly he probably wasn't watching a lot of TV, wasn't paying a lot of attention to the outside world. He was being very introverted. We even learned later on with this huge confession, about the whole thing with his daughter and stuff, that it was more about him, not wanting to have to deal with that stuff. So I could see him probably turning away from the outside world. So like, that is kind of the way they play that up. And they don't play him like he's completely from another planet when he shows up, but it's just the little nuances that he doesn't understand, and the little things that he's learning as he goes along, and how a cell phone works, and just the little things that work so brilliantly in the showow's favor for humor.
Uber and accepting that cash isn't king anymore.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Oh my God. I
exactly,
love
yeah.
that. The cash is king thing was like so I relate to that. I related to that a lot. Mr. Buttcrack Media, thank you for becoming a member. And we got Viking Beach Bum. Thank you for the $5 just to say, hey, yo, here's a super chat. Well, thank you. Thank you for that. Kenna Dowling for $10 says, hello. Hey, I saw Nina Infinity on the stream, and I see Nerdrotic and Tom, all my favorite people on one channel. I'm blessed not to leave you the outscript, Dr. and Teresa. Hope all is well. Thank you, Kenneth, for the support. And then,
Thank you.
so going on with the rest of the show. So he gets out of prison, gets sent to Tulsa. First thing he does, he stops at a weed store.
Yeah.
This is what I love about Gary talking about him like a wrecking ball, because I forgot the character's name here, but the weed store owner guy.
Bodie.
Thank you. He's like, I didn't need any protection until you came into fucking town. It's like, and then you realize by the end of the show that he says flat out, like, I'm making more money now than I was before he was here, and he saved me from losing $500,000 or whatever it was that was in his safe on top of it all.
Yep.
At that one point,
Feds, yeah.
from the feds, that one
Because of
when
the
they first
feds.
got raided, yeah.
Because
Even though he lost
technically-
it later to the ATF or whatever, or no, they moved it out. That's right, he moved
They
it
moved
out.
it out. They protected him. The feds are the criminals, and that's
Yes, they are. I love how they put that
That's
in the
the
show.
beauty
I'm
of it, too.
"Oh, beast."
Well, it's
Yeah,
mob versus mob, really. That's what it is.
it is. You're
Yes.
so right.
Yep, yep. And it's like, and in this scene, I again, there are so many little things that just made me laugh. Like that one, like this one kid right here with his dreadlocks, and the black guy being like, a lot of cultural appropriation going on in this story. I was like, oh my god, that's hilarious. Because this white boy has no business wearing those dreads. Okay,
he does it, but like, I was like, okay, I guess they're doing the Jamaican cultural appropriation. Sure, that's fine. But
yes,
Vikings had dreads.
That's what he's doing.
You know, though, I kind of appreciated it, though, Gary, because you know what? I have no problem with, you know, if it would be nice to see, you know, especially when you got these young white boys trying to emulate gangsters. Mm-hmm. If some black man just walked up and said, "What the fuck is wrong with you? Pull your goddamn pants up. Quit acting like that because you ain't nothing close to a gangster." Mm-hmm. You know, sometimes you need that. You know, not everybody's, you know, should just be walking around with dreadlocks like that idiot.
No, especially like with an updo. It's like a weave or something going on in there.
Well, and
not only that, yeah, it's insulting. Yeah.
Well, and he did it in a funny way. That's why it was good, because he did it in a funny way. Like it wasn't like, oh, you're a fucking bitch, like don't do that or whatever. Like it wasn't very hostile. It was just funny. And that's why it was even better. And I think the other one that made me really laugh was the SJW girl, because I couldn't even tell what the hell was going on with her. Because she was like, all like, I'm triggered like half the time, but then she could shoot like nobody's business. And she was like, yeah, my dad took me like shooting to train me how to shoot. And I was just like, this girl, like her character is so weird.
She reminds me of the children that grew up in prepper families, like extreme prepper families, where the end of the world is going to happen in like 2 years type of thing. So she is completely hypersensitive to any change around her, and in order to numb that, she just gets wicked wasted or
wake and bake all day.
I was curious how script fell about her character, because her character has a moment that some characters, or you know, some things, a moment we never have in most shows, and that is where at least one character stops and says, you know what, this is all your fucking fault.
Yep.
And all I want from you is an apology, goddamn it. Like, and I was curious how he felt about that scene. If he felt it was, you know, finally like a, oh my God, finally somebody did it thing, or was it like, this is normally why we don't have these kind of scenes? What was your, maybe even something completely.
It was earned, because she goes through a progression where she's easily triggered, constantly stoned, and then she starts sobering up, and then she starts cleaning herself up, and then you see that she can do the stuff with the gun, and that's where she's basically saying, I want an apology for all this, because you know, my life's been terrible all over. You're making it worse because now I can't even be stoned anymore.
She's like, you dragged your shit, like us into your shit, like, you know.
Yeah, she justifiably, she went through a character arc in the background that we got to see little snippets of, and now it's coming to a head here to basically solidify and implant herself that she is stuck with this team regardless, and she just wants to have one moment of acknowledgement and respect from, you know, the guy that's basically screwed up her life, that may, from her perspective, have been the way she wanted to die. She just wanted to be stoned, let time run out, and then pass away high and be happy. Now she can't do that. Now she has to be fully aware, and she's like, I demand an apology, and you get it. And the best part is that Stallone's like, yeah, okay,
yeah. He was like, okay,
he likes honesty.
This is not what I wanted to have happen. Like, because that's the other part too. Stallone didn't want any of this stuff to happen. He's like, I'm just going to go in there. I'm going to clean up this dispensary, get the most profit out of it, get my cut, and keep these guys protected, because I'm supposed to be their friend. And I like the fact that he, as a character, is fueled by more of a moral compass with these very dubious type of methods, but he doesn't want to actually. He's not there to intimidate for personal gain. He's there just to try and keep things kind of above board within himself and allow the little guy to actually get a taste of what everybody else is taking from them. And it's a very interesting take, because he's not the type of mob boss that's like, I'm doing it for my money. I'm going to keep all of it. Screw you guys. If you don't pay up, I'm going to break your knuckles or whatever part of the body. He's not coming in that way. He's like, this is a business relationship, and I'm going to make sure it's mutually beneficial. And it's very rare that you see criminals, or in this case, like that in fiction, where they actually live up to that code. And that's what separates Tulsa King from some of the other mob stories. And it's also what separates the character within the story from everyone else that he's working with, because you get a semblance that What Stallone is doing is what he and Chicky's dad were doing in New York, and it worked. And what's happening now is with his father, Chicky's father's on declining health, and his son, who has a great subplot about how he didn't want to be part of this family. He wanted to go to the military and be a soldier. And now he's kind of taking the bad traits of military, he's kind of bringing into the mob, where it's about power, status, ego, my way, no opinions, loyalty, like all the things that are demanded but not earned, because Stallone is on respect, and respect is more powerful than loyalty, because respect means that the people that respect you and that you respect are brave enough to tell you when you're doing something wrong and know that they're doing it only because they care about you. When it's loyalty, they'll never say no. They'll never tell you you're doing something wrong because they're afraid of the reprisals for not getting affirmation from you. And that's what is awesome about this show.
Yep.
And the other thing is fear, right? Chicky tries to push his will onto others through fear, right? Like at first, like you said, Gary, like Sly will come in like a wrecking ball, which does incite a bit of fear in some people at first. But like Script pointed out, what he'll do then is he gets to know these people. And through that, he gains respect on both levels of, you know, friendship and loyalty on the behalf of the people that work with him. You know, like he goes into that bar and he gets to know the guy. That's another character we haven't talked about. Again, Spencer, I think it is.
Oh yeah, the guy who did Time, who's got the Cherokee.
Or not Spencer. What's his
bar name? On the Cherokee land. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mitch.
What's his? Mitch. Thank
you. Mitch is the bartender.
Now, Mitch is again another parallel of him. He's like, he knows what it's like to have been in prison, right? And he also knows what it's like to, you know. So he's kind of like that age. He's in that age range of Sly, just on the cusp of going into prison. And I have a feeling that'll probably play again later on. Like something's going to go down, and he's going to probably be put in a position where Sly's going to have to make a choice of whether or not, you know, and whatever. And yeah, but anyway, that's my point, is like, this is a guy who's representing that age of Sly in his life. But anyway, sorry guys.
There's so many good characters in this. Like, I really like Mitch's character. I like Armand's character. I like Manny. There was and speaking of fear, Tom, like you brought up fear, like Manny was like another perfect example of a character that was like just filled with fear at the beginning. You know, the thought that Sly was there, like sent to kill him, and decides like, you know what, I'm going to kill this guy first. Like, he's not going to get me. I'm going to get him first. And it turned out to be one of the most insane driver's ed lessons of all time. Like, oh my God, I did not.
Yeah, he should have failed that test anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I thought mine wasn't him.
Yeah. This is the one character that I'm still kind of confused about after knowing about the flashback a little bit. I don't know if Script can enlighten me on some of this, but like, I just don't understand, because was he the guy that supposedly tried to kill him or whatever it was, and or had him kill him?
No,
because that's why I don't understand why he would even think Sly's trying to kill him if he was there.
Well, he was a witness with Chicky and another guy while they were kind of torturing this dude, and they handcuffed him to a radio.
That I know. Yeah,
Oh, no,
but he was the one who called him, so that was a thing. So like, yeah, that's where I was confused.
No, technically, Manny and Sly were the ones that went there to find out what Chicky and his friend were doing. So those two are witnesses to the crime, and because Sly went in, Manny skipped town because he thought he was going to get killed by the
okay,
mob.
That's what I missed.
So when he sees Sly there and he knows that it's been 25 years, and he does the math, he's like, oh crap, the only reason he could be in Tulsa is because he knows I'm here and he's going to kill me. Beautiful character motivation. I love the fact that it's done through dramatic irony, because we as the audience know that's not why Sly's here.
Okay, that was the part I missed, is him skipping town before or whatever.
Yeah, he skipped town. He got married.
He was the.
He made it seem like this was recent, like recently he just moved out here is what it felt like to me. That's where I was confused.
He'd been out for
and he's got the issue with his neighbors, you know, having his dog crap on his lawn and sidewalk.
Yes,
just letting him.
Yeah, that I got all that. It was just the whole the history thing. There was something I was missing as to why he would think Sly would be killing him when they seemed friendly in the flashback. That's what I was confused with.
He thought that Chicky had sent him to kill him because he ran away and he knew what had really happened.
He didn't know Sly did any time. He didn't know he did any time or anything.
That's where I was. Okay, that is another thing maybe where I was confused, because I was like, did he, like, I don't get it. Why would he think that Sly's trying to kill him? They're friends. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Well, why else would he be in Oklahoma?
Yeah,
I mean, that all made
ran.
sense to me at first, but when we got to the flashback, that's when the confusion set in with me.
Gotcha.
By the way, that was a great flashback too. Like I thought, like it really kind of brought everything home because it was a last episode, and we're all kind of kept wondering, like, what really did happen? What really did happen? And it showed what happened. And the de-aging was good. Like I thought it wasn't like, too like weird looking or like kind of
Well, they
like
just gave Stallone a wig, really. That's all they did.
yeah.
Yeah, I made it dark, gave him a wig. It was fine. It totally worked.
It was brutal.
The whole aspect of fish out of water, kind of doing what he and acclimating his skills to today was fantastic. But just the motivation they were giving him, because he was just kind of a leaf on the wind. He's like, okay, I guess I'm banished. All right, I guess I'll do this thing. And he starts right up extorting, right? And then we slowly starts peeling back the onion of like what the hell's really going on, and they're setting up the bigger bad. In the meantime, we have this biker gang.
Yep.
That's just that's
man.
there.
Taylor Sheridan has a chip on his shoulder from Sons of Anarchy, and I don't begrudge him.
Clearly.
I really don't begrudge him for it, because as good as that show was, and he thought that was going to be a bigger role when he got hired on it, and they kind of did him dirty for the sake of the story to a degree. He's just like, no, these bikers think they're tough. Screw you. Midwesterns are tough.
Yeah, and the speaking of the bikers, this is kind of like this dude is the big baddie of the show, and again, the great performance. I mean,
I love this guy.
He's good. Go ahead, Gary.
Dark Knight. He's in the Dark Knight. He's been in everything, and he plays similar roles. As a matter of fact, I can't think of what he played a similar role to this. Like he looked the same, just not with the accent. I can't remember what it was though. I've watched so much shit.
I like his accent.
But I was all worried. I'm like, oh, here we go. It's gonna be white supremacist bikers, and but it wasn't really. They were just bikers.
Yeah, they were just red. Yeah, they were just regular
biker gang. Running drugs and I like that clash of two worlds, like old school Italian mafia versus modern biker gang.
But it's the Irish biker gang.
Irish biker gang, yeah.
Italians and the Irish really butt heads in the history.
Tale as old as time. And he had a Northern Irish accent too.
Well, and the other thing that was really funny and kind of really random about this is that, like, Sly's trying to be sly about the whole thing. Like he doesn't want to go back to prison. So he's like, oh, what are kids into nowadays? Oh, nitrous. Okay, let's get into that, I guess. Like, and it's just, he wants to do it so he stays off the radar, and it ends up being the worst decision to actually go into this nitrous business.
Diversifying.
What's better yet is when these guys meet face to face, he's like, fuck you, the horse you rode in on, and is insulted by the fact that they're even talking at that point. He's just like,
yeah. Well, I mean, I kind of get it from this guy's point of view when it comes to the mob, because he's like, if you had come to me with that business and offered me a little piece, then we wouldn't have had any of these. Like, and I'm like, usually that's how business is done, like between the mob. But like, I think that guy, like Sly, didn't know like that this was a whole thing. Like, it was like, okay, there's like an actual nitrous gang like in this town, and.
But he's also like, you're gonna work for me. I'm not gonna come to you.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's not happening.
Like, nah.
Like this guy was basically I think Sly was well aware of that to a point, but I think Gary's right. It's more so of a matter of, wait, who the fuck do you think you are? Like,
yeah,
you're messing with the New York mafia, motherfucker. You're just some backward country fuck who thinks he's gonna come to me with some fucking, you should have offered me. Fuck you. You should be lucky you're alive more than that.
More than that. Sly is a first-generation American, and he's going up ahead with an immigrant Irish criminal.
That's true, too.
He's not even from this freaking country, is from his perspective. And he's like,
he brings it up
on your turf, you're treading on mine. My parents named me after a president, to acclimate to this country.
He even brings up the natives. He's like, we both don't belong here, okay? Like, this is like, we're like, playing in somebody else's town.
Oh, I love Bad Face's line. I'm going to paraphrase it. I just want to thank you for including me in this. I don't have many friends. When they're going to brawl. It was so good.
Oh my God. That
Oh.
whole thing was great, Gary, because I did not expect Tyson's dad to be so based, because he's like, he just comes up and he's like, he's been arguing with his son the whole show. Like, I don't want you to, like, I sent you to school. I don't want you to do this life. Like, what are you doing? All the stuff. And like, the son keeps going like, I know this is my life, Dad, and I'm going to do what I want to do. And then he ends up getting beaten up by the Nitrix guys. And then the dad's like, all right, we're going to war. Like,
You want to know what progress looks like in Hollywood? Having a black character have a good dad. That was a fucking progress.
A very different.
We don't see it
character,
very much. Yeah, it was really different and cool. I loved it. Freaking loved it.
Because even
his dad is a plumber, so he deals with crap all day. He knows how to call it.
Hardworking dad, has a nuclear family at home. Siblings, a mom. I'm like, whoa, okay, good.
Didn't expect that.
That's nice to see.
Well, and the big key to that is like, the scene where he goes to, the two are talking in the bar and he goes, this is not the father bonding moment.
You think
it is. Because what he's doing, he's basically telling him, look, you're making a choice here. I'm only here to keep your ass alive. Like that was the only reason I was here. Now you're on your own. This was my one time.
That's called a good dad.
This is the one time I was going to have your back.
Yep.
Exactly. And after this,
he says you still have a home.
You still have a home, but I'm not going to be doing this kind of a thing with you. Is kind of what he was trying to say, right?
Yeah, but it was also great because like he finally met Dwight and then he shook his hand and everything. And he was like, I'm coming with you. And Dwight was like, I don't think so, kind of thing. And he's just like, yeah, I am, because like he's like, aren't you a father? And Dwight was like, yeah. And he's like, then don't ask questions that you already know the answer. Like that was so cool, because again, there's so many themes of like fatherhood is also a huge theme in this. And I think that like there was a few times that there's a few scenes that like really hit deep with me, especially because my father and I we kind of had a estranged kind of relationship, because he wasn't in my life, so it kind of hit home with me when Sly goes into that silent circle and like he was talking to his daughter and being like, it wasn't for me that I asked you to stop coming, or it wasn't for you, it was for me. And there was a few really beautiful themes like that in terms of like fatherhood and how important it is with Tyson as well. And it's really interesting, Tom, that you said that they were reflection of each other, because I didn't really see that until you said it, and it makes sense now, because it's like his fatherhood towards his daughter as well as Tyson's with his fatherhood, kind of like with his father also meshes and like lines, and that's really interesting and cool as well.
Yeah, and juxtaposed with that, we have the ultimate father-son bad relationship, which ended badly in a bathtub.
That's right, Teresa. Good point.
Bad daddy, bad son. And remember when he said to the priest, also someone he called father, father-son there, he said, he was the one who made me steal an apple. That's what started it all.
Right.
And he killed him. And then he became Lex Luthor, because he took off his wig and
he did turn into Lex Luthor.
I did get that vibe too.
It was like, I'm a villain now. Boom.
I don't need this wig anymore.
Now, what do you guys think? Like, because when she told him about the grape, like she kind of did it like in a way that like she was like, oh, I didn't mean to say that, but I feel like she totally did. Like I was like, okay, you told him on purpose, girl, because he gonna go kill that guy.
I mean, maybe from a woman's point of view, I don't know. I can't speak to that, but I think in the heat of the moment, she was trying to take a jab at him, and then just realized
it kind of came out. Yeah,
the can of worms she just fucking opened up.
You know what's cool about this?
Yeah,
Tom is and Nina is like there's different ways you can interpret it. That's what good writing does.
Yeah.
There is no solid answer. It's kind of up to you, but we still get to the same conclusion, right? But what her motivation was, I mean, that's something you can plant and do later, or not at all, and like leave it to guess. You don't have to explain everything to us, right?
Well, no, it's not handed out to you. I mean,
Yeah.
in this case here, the entire scene is conflict where she's basically saying, your life, your mob ruined my life. And to prove it, this guy that you think was going to look out for me actually didn't. Like, that's basically her argument. Whether she's motivated to reveal those details to him and have him do what he does is not relevant at this point. The conflict of this scene is that you think the world that you raised me in was safer than where I am now. And you are wrong. And I can prove it to you. And it does actually shake Sly's character. It does shake him a lot, to the point where and this is happening all around the time where his little brother has just passed away.
Yep.
So he's got a whole bunch of emotions just like weighing in on him, a whole bunch of regret. And it's like, I couldn't be there to protect my girl. My little brother, who everybody in the family respected, and they left him out of the family of the mob, couldn't protect my girl. And then the people that I left in charge to look after you and my wife, they didn't protect you the way that they promised. Yes, it's nothing but betrayal. And I'm going to solve it. And she on herself was trying to justify that. She already took care of it. That's already done. It's in the wind. But she just wanted to bring that point up to prove to him that his perspective on life was not actually true or not actually correct. And it's all out there, but it's done orbiting the conflict of, you were gone for 25 years. What you think was right was not right for me, and I'm the one living the consequences of that action. And Sly is like, now his response to that, and I love the reaction, is that I have to make this right.
Well, literally shakes.
I just have to make the next 25 years better. And that's what motivates the rest of that episode.
I was gonna say, well, it literally shakes the foundation of everything going forward, right? Like, and I keep forgetting that too, Script. That's another brilliant point. The whole mirror thing and the juxtaposition, or however you want to look at it. His brother is that point, right? His brother was everything he wasn't. He was responsible. He was a family man. He was respected. Everything Sly wanted if he had done that and picked that route, but instead he went, kind of like the whole Darth Vader thing, right? He went the quick and easy route to get respect and went with the mob instead of his other family. And that's what the price he paid, was where he's at now. And, he's full of regret and all that business. And it's brilliantly played out through this first season, and how they show all of his, the things that he chose and how it's reflected in the other characters and that are involved, and now how it's playing out in what he's dealing with his daughter, and how this revelation not only shook him to do what he did, but that's his choice now to basically completely cut ties with the New York mob at that point.
With this generation of it, essentially, because it's not the generation he belonged to. But we get preface this on the cell phone call with his brother, he can hear him, but he can't respond. And he tells him that awesome story when they were kids, and they meet the old white man with a white beard and a white suit. And they ask, "Are you God?" And he's like, "Well, I guess if you think I am, I guess I am." And it just kind of shows like the memories and the heart that he had for his family, his brother, and the fact that he wishes he could be there right now. Just to hold his hand, to tell him, like, he tells him he loves him and everything. And you're like, this is like pinnacle masculinity right here. Being strong, but vulnerable at the same time, confident, competent, and also very appreciative of all the things that you have, even though not everything is going great. I mean, it's a pinnacle scene. It's a beautiful one. You haven't gotten a scene like that since Rocky Balboa, when he's talking to his kid and he's talking to Adrian, and like it's top-notch acting and writing in this moment.
There was two. There was this scene where he had that conversation with his brother, and then there was the next one where he read what he was gonna do as a eulogy on the message. Yeah. And oh my God, they were both so powerful. Like, I was just like, like,
well, that moment's tied to this whole thing, right? Because it's also a part of the theme of the show, is when he has this final moment, his final conversation with his brother. He actually goes out to New York, where he's technically not allowed to go, and to go to his brother's funeral, and he doesn't even get to go. and he's forced to go, meet with the boss at the same time. Like all these things come in, again, he never actually gets to do the things in life he's supposed to do. And it kind of goes along with that whole, this is not the father son bonding moment you think it is. It's kind of the same thing with his daughter, right? He thinks he's made some ground with her, only to realize she's going to push back even more against him once, the shit hits the fan. But, we're getting ahead of ourselves there. But
Sly does go to the funeral. He actually pushes the mob family aside because he shows up late. He just leaves the funeral a little bit early, pays his respects to his friend, and then he goes back to try and have that kind of memorial dinner with the family and learn, what's been going on over the years. But his daughter just can't handle it and just gets up and leaves.
Well, because in that scene, she's actually right too, because he's kind of showing off, right? Like that's kind of the whole thing.
Yeah, he's showing off in an attempt to try and earn their respect. Again, he's doing it in all the wrong moves. He's just so regretful that he doesn't know how else to express his regret other than throw some money around and give everybody a meal that something his own brother would probably not even really like.
And he said that, like, she said that too. She was like, are we not going to talk about how the uncle wouldn't like any of this? Like, because she knew him better than her father at that point, right? Like he was the father figure in her life. And then and I think, Teresa, you brought up earlier the emotional scene that you thought about. Was that the brother scene, or was it the message scene? Which one were you specifically talking about?
Both. I mean, isn't that awful? Anyone that has family that they really love, and I've been through a rough year. That I've had 2 family members that have both beaten cancer, but it was hell. And so, I definitely, yes, it really, really got to me. And then the whole idea of kind of feeling, when you go to funerals, you want to express yourselves, you want to bond, you want to mourn together. And this character, he wasn't able to do that because he's so isolated, and you just felt the hurt. Everyone was just hurting throughout that whole scene. He even tries to make a joke when he says to the son-in-law, "Oh, you didn't even come and ask for my blessing." He said, "Well, I didn't want to get a cavity search before."
Yeah.
And it just shows again that this is a hurting family. But at the end of the day, they love each other, because if you are indifferent, you don't care. If you're angry, that means you care, and it means you care a hell of a lot.
This is true. And quick question: why do you guys think Chicky beat the shit out of the husband?
Ego.
That's it.
That's it.
He's a little bitch.
He's at that point. He was going to kill his dad otherwise. At that point, that was just his last, trying not to do that, because like the whole thing was, like we said with Chicky, is he wanted to be something completely different. His dad forced him into this lifestyle. He's been comparing himself to Dwight from the beginning. This whole thing that happened, with the package and Dwight's daughter is what kind of set this whole last explosion off between him and his father. His father never gives him any words of encouragement or, you did a good job here, son. But, it's always there probably is always a but attached to that, I'm sure, considering what we did see out of him. Because again, he's very demeaning to his son all the time, and maybe rightfully so, because obviously Chicky's a dumb shit who couldn't run a fucking Taco Bell if he was asked to, but like
well, yeah, like Chicky did that because one of his capos was killed by Dwight.
Yes.
One of his family members was killed. I'm going to at least send a message to Dwight by way of his kids.
And it's also to show that he's not about the old mafia code. This is about it was said, that what comes up later when he kills his dad.
Yeah. I'm a little bitch mafia code nowadays.
Yeah, exactly.
That's hilarious.
There's that too. Yeah, exactly.
I was so scared on this scene. I was like, please don't kill him. Like, I love this dude. Bodhi was like one of my favorite characters, because I was like,
that's why I was so glad when I realized, okay, good, he's not flipping on him.
I was like, please don't flip. Like, oh no.
Oh, the way he gets revenge on that guy was brilliant. Because that goes into your favorite moment, Nina, that you mentioned.
Yeah. And Bodhi is played just like he plays his character in Silicon Valley. It's the same damn character, and I love it.
It was I think it was so much the same character that they literally put that line in there. They were like, you know what? Let's just make it both, and it kind of makes sense in that.
Totally works. Well, he's really good at that character.
He is.
Yes, he is.
Gary, who was your favorite other than Sly? Who was your favorite character?
Oh, I don't. Let me think about that for a second. Armand.
Armand.
I liked Armand. I like he started out because you could see it's not a full character arc yet, but he started out like angry that he left. He felt pathetic. He felt lost. You know, he's this fish out of water, and just kind of, you know, meandering along. You know, he still loves his kid. Yeah, it still loves his kid and his wife, but like he starts finding, he feels beta. He feels totally beta, and you can feel him getting his alpha back. And he even mentions it after a couple of fights. He's all, that was therapeutic, you know?
Yeah.
Or
when
he's
he's
the
like,
dude with the shoe and the poop on it.
yeah, when he tells his wife, like after he,
when his wife's like, and then he's like, no, we're staying in this house. We're not going
have
anywhere.
a house.
We have a house. And she's like, oh, I don't like him like this. So I
was waiting for that for so long. I'm like, oh, that guy's gonna beat the shit out of the dog guy at some point. I can see it coming, and it's just like when it happens, you're like, yeah, finally.
And I'm also glad we've got like, you know, 3 Italian mob guys down there, because so we can have a proper, you know, Italian mob, at least a trifecta of it versus whatever else they're gonna face, which is who knows in the next season. Dirty politicians or Mexican gangs.
Obviously, the corrupt ATF and all that business.
The corrupt ATF is I think gonna be, well, they set up a politician, Dana Delaney.
Yeah.
Is the ranch owner who got it from her politician husband.
Yep.
And he had a quick scene facing off with Dwight, which totally is setting something up.
Yeah, I think he'll be a problem.
I think he's gonna be a huge problem. And I think she is too. I don't know who, because they set up 2 women who could possibly be big bads, and that's Stacey.
I didn't think about Dana Delaney until you said it earlier, but I'm like, I don't know, maybe you could be right.
I don't trust.
I think
when she that line, Gary, when she said, "What's it like to kill a man?" I was like, oh.
That was a red flag.
Scary. Yeah.
Even if you've killed somebody before, that's still a red flag. You're like, oh,
yeah. She's going to end up on Investigation Discovery.
Yeah.
This chick definitely was kind of a. I didn't think.
I could be wrong.
Then again, like Gary, that's the way the way I took it was the other side. I was like, okay, so maybe she's going to be willing to understand him more so.
Maybe.
And especially considering she's dealt with this politician ex-husband all the years, the shit that he does is probably going to be a fucking cakewalk in comparison to some of the shit that she knows her husband has covered up over the years.
But I think Stacey betraying. By the way, we're spoiling everything, right? So
go spoil everything.
The very ending. You know, Dwight goes back to jail because Stacey, the ATF agent that he has been banging the entire season, turned on him because so after
to keep her job.
Bodhi stole all the money from the biker and
using NFT.
using NFTs and crypto, and then gave a bunch of it to Stacey, knowing she was going to lose her job.
$1 million.
$1 million. So she used that as he tried to bribe an ATF agent.
I think a big part of it too was also she was jealous as fuck of Dana Delaney. And
I
that's
think this
where
also cleans up her sleeping with him too. Like, I was just trying to get the guy.
She was too dumb.
You think it was because of jealousy? I didn't think about that.
I think a big part of it was, because you had the whole big blow up right after that. She was pissy about it, and
they established that she's damaged. She's a very damaged person.
She's in the middle of a divorce. She's seeing a psychologist. Those already are red flags because you shouldn't be dating when you're in that position, really. The other part too, which I liked, which actually parallels right into Dana Delaney and why her story actually functions, is there's this old horse that just gets out of its stable and wanders in town.
The white horse pilot.
Yes, this parallels what Dwight is doing. He's an old horse that's just got out of prison and he's kind of doing, his own thing. And so Dwight decides to use his money to, give the horse a proper home. And then he befriends the waitress at that coffee shop named Spencer to take care of it for him. And I love the idea that when he goes to the owner and buys it for like a few $100, which is a steal for a horse, even an old one.
$300. I was like, that's a steal.
He says, the horse, he can't do anything with him. He keeps breaking out. It's like, well, if he keeps breaking out, then he's got something in him. Like,
Yep.
you know, there's something there.
Yeah, that was a great parallel with his character. And here's the sad part is we know something's going to come of it because, like I said, no good deed ever goes unpunished in this show.
Well, that's him meeting Dana Delaney, so that's going to probably be the ripple effect. Because
could be.
She didn't want the ranch to begin with. She got it as part of her divorce. She was never born on a ranch or anything to do with horses prior to her marriage to their husband. And I think after that divorce and the fact that he still wishes he had the ranch, I think she's plotting to kill him and is hoping to try and get Dwight to do that. That's my like what every writer would do in Hollywood thing with these types of setups. I'm really hoping Taylor Sheridan goes a different way.
And he stands up to Dwight pretty well though. The husband, like he's like not scared, like whatever. He's straight up, like,
he's used to it. Those are his people. Yeah.
Like well, I mean, he's a politician, so he's a gangster too. And it was just two gangsters facing off. So
he knows how the game is played. This guy was actually more scary than the biker guy because it's like this guy's like
he is more scary because like we were just pointing out, this guy could really fuck with Dwight more so than anybody else could probably.
So now, so we know he goes to prison in the end, which is like even though I kind of saw it coming, it was
we don't know yet. He was just arrested.
Well, he was arrested. He was arrested.
He's facing 15 years in prison.
And this is after the bar. So Mitch's bar is on Native American land. So they make a casino. So they got their first casino. So they straight up like mafia. Can I just mention Barry Corbin? Barry Corbin.
Oh, he's amazing.
Dad. I didn't even. I still lie. I'm like, is that Barry Corbin? Holy crap!
I know. He's awesome. He's in Yellowstone for an episode or two.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, he's been in tons of stuff. He plays a great. He's the in one of my guilty pleasures of Dukes of Hazzard, he plays one of the dads that's shooting at the Duke boys with a shotgun.
He's in War Games. He's like he was in everything in the 80s.
I'll tell you, he's one of the few times where somebody was recast, and I actually like the recasting better. And I know this is going to be like a what? You're like, okay, Critters. He played the same character that somebody else played in Critters 1, but he played it better in the sequel than the original character. Emmett Walsh played it in the first movie. He played the character in the second movie, the town sheriff, Harv, and he played it so much better.
I think he's also signed on as a regular for the other Yellowstone spinoff, which is the 4-6s Ranch. Because he's
a character in there.
So yeah.
He's as old as dirt, man. I give.
Well, that's the character he plays. Is he's like the oldest, greatest
cowboy
guy.
He was also in Better Call Saul, if I'm not mistaken. He's trying to prevent the bank from buying his land.
Yes, he was. You're right.
Yep.
I forgot about.
Oh yeah, he's always been around. Yeah, he's a great character actor. Yeah, but he usually plays a similar role. It's usually some highfalutin Texan, but
he has a very fun dialect. It's excellent to listen to him talk.
He has a very sing-song voice.
He's Mitch's dad, right?
He's Mitch's dad. He's Mitch's dad. Yeah, like most. I don't know what his. For me, it's War Games.
Oh yeah.
That's why most. He was great.
He's been in a million things.
Things, dude. His IMDb is just silly.
The moment you hear his voice, you know how long it is.
Yeah. That guy's been working forever.
I mean, he looks like a mushroom now, but you just hear him talk. It's like, it's
whatever. It's
Barry Corbin.
You see a guy like that, and everybody wants to be the star and win the awards in Hollywood, but like you really want to be Barry Corbin, like where you've had a career spanning 5 decades, and you're in everything. Absolutely, you're always working. You're never turning stuff down.
And they're all usually really good. Like it's not like shit after shit. It's like
Northern Exposure. Thank you. One fan.
That was probably his big breakout. If anything. Yeah.
First couple seasons were really good, and it just fell off. But
I didn't realize how long that show was on until recently, Gary, because I said something about it because I played it on Mead Radio. I played the theme, and I'm like, I think that show only had like 3-4 seasons. It was really hot for a minute, and then somebody in the chat said, no, that thing had like 7 seasons. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, it did. Yeah. I fell out after like season 4. But the first 2 seasons were really good. It was a good show. It's quirky. But writing was changing back in the late 80s and early 90s. It wasn't because everything was just cookie cutter procedural. And all of a sudden, like we started getting these like just cleverly written. They were funny, tongue in cheek, taking chances with the FCC as far as, just a subject matter. And it just evolved and got better.
And the soft serialization model, which was really cool. And now we kind of have to find a more hybrid balance between that with today's TV.
Yep.
Because
I think this is it. I think
well,
this is
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Tulsa King is actually very formulaic, but it's hidden
It
because
is.
characters are incredibly complex. And again, props to Taylor Sheridan because he is a character actor. He's been working for 26 years. So every single character, even the ones that only have one line, have something going on with them. And that's really appreciative because for that actor, for that day player that just gets that one line, that's going on their resume to get other jobs. And you can tell that when he's running the show, he's like, listen, if we're going to have this character say a line, we got to give this character something so that actor will get work next week.
So you know all those
you
people
don't get that perspective that often with writers.
I was gonna say, you can tell Taylor's a huge fan of The Godfather and old Clint Eastwood westerns.
Yeah. And he's
War of
going to
the
be the
Roses.
king of, he's like going to be the king of Hollywood very soon if he isn't already. Like
He's on the rise. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, like the body of work so far really speaks for
Well,
itself.
dude,
I mean, I've only seen Tulsa King, but I cannot wait for
2 years
Yellowstone now.
ago, they were giving, I mean, they're not going to do this anymore, but they were the when the streaming thing, when the whole streaming war that's over, by the way, was ramping up. You remember, Tom, they were giving freaking everybody first look deals, $500 million. Ryan Murphy.
They even had the joke on
$300
South Park
million.
where you call up Netflix and you got a show. You got a show. You got a
You got a
show.
show. You got a show. And like this guy is what I mean, he's delivered. Like Ryan Murphy and JJ Abrams combined have not delivered what this dude has delivered. Like it's
No.
insane.
No, he's almost Aaron Sorkin level in the turn of the century.
Yep.
The only difference is that Aaron Sorkin talks about nothing and does it well, and Taylor Sheridan actually has a subject he's going after. And
Well, and he's getting better
does
too.
walk the
Script.
lines with like in Yellowstone, he does walk the line a little bit with the Mary Sue archetype for one character, but he's trying to pull away from it because I think he's catching himself after the episode is shot, and he's trying to fix it because
Well,
he
he's
does
slowed
have that
down with
aspect.
season 5. I've noticed Script, and that's the thing is,
Yeah.
I think you kind of said this in a roundabout way earlier. He's getting better, right, as he's going along. And I've noticed this because I've really taken a deep dive into his films and shows in the last few weeks here, and watched him. You know, I went back from Yellowstone. I went from Tulsa King back to Yellowstone, then watched 1883, 1923. Then I watched a couple of his films. And watching his progression from there kind of backwards in a weird way, in a snaky way, I can see it. It's like, because like Sicario and stuff, even though that probably a lot of that's, you know, Villeneuve before having fun with that. Like he took a very simplified story, like and Script said, it has very complex characters, but in that it makes them a little bit muddled. But you get much more focused characters in Hell or High Water. And Hell or High Water feels like the stepping stone to everything after that. It's like, and I haven't seen Cold River yet, but I'm assuming that's probably similar in a sense where, because I think that he made that right just before this stuff. So like it's, you know, I could see him getting better and better and better and better and better as he's going along. And I mean, we disagree a little bit on 1883 Script, but even 1923 has me just so pissed right now that I have to wait to see what's going to happen next. And that's what I love about these shows, is it takes me back to shows like Deadwood and back to some of those other shows back in the day where, you know, you guys have brought up, you know, about like, the one that Better Call Saul came from originally, Breaking Bad. And stuff like that. And I remember a lot of people talking about those kind of shows in similar ways. And I felt the same way about Weeds and a few other shows back in the day before that went to shit, where it was like, you know, oh my God, I hate you so much. Why did you stop now? You know, and that's the way a show needs to feel. You need to feel that way, where you're so pissed that the show's over, you know?
Yeah, dude, I like those are there's been a couple shows that have made me feel that way so far. Tulsa King is one of them. I kind of felt like that about Reacher, Terminal List, Severance, which I really enjoyed. But other than that, there hasn't really been much. Like it's just like
Cobra Kai is Teresa.
Yeah, I was gonna say Cobra Kai never dies.
But the beauty of Cobra Kai is we get them all at once, so we don't feel it exactly that way. But when you know that stinger comes at the end of an episode, you know.
Yeah, yeah. But it's really nice to kind of feel that way, though. Like you're like, oh my God, like I want to look forward to something, and this is definitely that show. And
The Offer was done that way too. Really well. Sorry,
I haven't seen The Offer. What is that? I don't know what that is.
That is a great show. It's about it's a very somewhat fictionalized version of the making of The Godfather. But
that's right. I gotta watch that. So you told me about that. Now in this scene too, like I just want to point out, I really like this scene because that guy Goody He went there to meet up with Stallone, to talk face to face about all the drama and everything. And he went before Chicky killed the dad, and so he didn't really know
He
what
was
was
away
going
while
on.
Chicky killed the dad, so he had no
Yeah,
clue.
yeah. But then when Chicky went over there to like kill Stallone, he's just like, you know, well, like Stallone at that point is established now, so he's got his casino, he's
Yeah,
got like
this is
everything
like
going on.
I'm not working for you anymore. This is my
Exactly.
town.
Exactly.
Yep.
He tells him this is my town, and then he looks at Goody and he goes, "You have 3 seconds to decide whether you want to work for that chump bitch or you want to come over here." And he,
I
of
love
course,
this. Yeah, yeah. I love this scene too because that's the kind of thing. I mean, it's just a little character moment that you don't see anymore.
Mhm.
You know, this reminds me a lot. Okay, just in character, and how Buffy dealt with its characters. Buffy and Angel,
Ah.
they spread the wealth around a lot, even though this is Sly's show.
Yep.
But just like little moments like that, there's little good payoffs that keep as Script was talking about, just keep the pacing on this thing is great. It's
Mhm.
procedural, it's pretty basic, it's predictable, but what's the most important thing is the characters in this. Everybody's got a distinct personality, even if you have one freaking line. And
Yep.
you start rooting for people. And you know, I'm looking at Armand, and like the first thing I'm thinking of is Bruno Kirby from City Slickers. That's how like, so, he reminds me of.
Yeah,
He
very much
does
so.
look and
Oh.
sound a lot like
Yeah.
Bruno
Just like
Kirby
him.
and City Slickers.
Which I love, by the way.
But
So,
like Goody is actually really well peppered throughout this entire season because he is set up as kind of like a scout, a recon man.
Yep.
And he volunteers his opinions, and every opinion that he tells Chicky's dad is like, it seems like Sly is going to do his own thing, and we're not going to be able to be in control of him anymore. And I'm worried. And he then tries to hide that opinion from Sly as he's still interacting with him. But it's right when he gets to this point, to this scene where he after hearing from Chicky that we're gonna go kill him, he's like, we don't do that. Like, why? He's doing fine. He's still sending us money. What the heck?
Mhm.
Like, yeah, he gave you the warning that he might be doing his own thing, but he hasn't. And then he gets to this scene, and Sly tells him like, "You're with me, or you're with this little wimp here who he doesn't even know." Like, that's the best part I love about this scene is that Sly has no idea that Chicky killed his father. He is
Right.
under the impression that he died of a heart attack and drowned.
Yep.
And when Sly finds out, you know he's going to go hot mean on
Yep.
Chicky.
Well, and that's the
And I
other thing
love
too
that.
is
Ooh,
the other
100%.
guy,
Decision, yeah.
the guy that went with Sly also. What was his name again?
Goody.
Goody.
The thing with Goody is he also knows that the dad's dead now. So that's another reason why I think he chose to go with Sly, because he knows that this is not
Yep.
going to go. As
And plus,
far
he also
as-
mentions
yeah.
there's a little thing. Hey, you know, I was a kid around you. He like father figure.
Yeah.
You know? So that's the fact that he switched, and instead, you know, I was like, oh, is he going to stay loyal? And did. I thought that was cool. I'm like, yeah, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Goody knows what he's going to get into with Sly because it's going to be the same of what he just had with Chicky's dad, only in Tulsa. That's
Exactly.
Only in
like,
Tulsa,
I'm
and
going where I know.
and I'm not go where I know where there's more, you know, a more level-headed leader too, and not some nutbag who just took off his wig and turned in a.
Who
But
had
it's
to
good.
wear a
I mean,
wig.
Yeah.
There's the other
yeah,
part.
Super
He knew
villain.
he was a
one.
fake
Had to
because
wear
he
one.
felt like he had to wear a wig.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, shout out to that guy too. Like, I actually love this dude because I forget the actor's name, but he's from one of my all-time favorite shows, The Wire. And I remember he was the cop.
Another
He was one of the
character
cops
actor,
in The
yeah.
Wire.
Yeah,
and
he's good in this. He's a good bad
great
guy.
actor.
He's a good bad guy.
It's Dominique Lombardozzi, if I'm saying it right.
I think, yeah, and he's great. Like I said, one of my favorite actors from The Wire, and seeing him in this was just really, really good. It was a really good casting choice for them to do. And then there was one scene that I was just like, I wanted to get your take on that one where everybody's fighting, like, you know, when everyone's fighting in that bar or whatever, when they first go to get to get their nitrous and money back or whatever. And then like that cop chick is having sex with a rando dude. And oh no, wait, it's the second fight when the dad joins them too. Like
at the
Tyson's
amusement park,
dad.
yeah.
Yeah. So they're all like fighting in the bar, and then that chick is having sex with some rando dude, and like the scenes were like just like intermixed, and I was like, I kind of wanted more of the fight scene rather than like the like mixed sex scene with that chick
So
having.
that
It
is
was just
called a
weird.
cathartic climax, and it's done so very superficially.
He said climax.
It's when, yeah, it's basically it's trying to parallel that both of them are getting release, but at the same
Yeah.
time it's a burden. It's not something that they really want to do, and it's very on the nose.
Yeah, I
I
didn't.
criticize Taylor Sheridan and the director of that episode for keeping it in that way.
Yeah, I just I
Yeah, I
didn't
see what
like
you're
that
saying,
one.
script. Yeah.
It was too on the nose. I was just like, can I just look at the violence? Like, I don't want to watch this chick have sex with a rando dude. I don't really care about her.
Well, the thing is, it
Mm.
doesn't really. It tries to show her essentially trying to distance herself from Stallone, but at the end, she's realizing no, she's a guy that she really wants to be with for whatever reason. Because I
She
guess
kept going back to him over
She-
and over again.
yeah, and trying to warn him not to do stuff, but at the
Mhm.
same time, this goes into her own because she's a toxic character, it's a very selfish character, which is that she's doing it for herself. She's trying to say that she's doing it for someone else. She's trying to deter people in the ATF and the FBI off the fact that she's in a relationship with him because she knows it's going to cost her job. And the instant it does
Mhm.
cost her job, she takes everything that she knows about him and hands it over to keep her job
Right.
for herself. Like she is doing exactly what Chicky's doing in his own mob. It's all
Exactly.
about herself and nothing
And
but anyone
yeah,
else. Yeah.
She
Yeah.
even points out that like Stallone, I got the is the wrecking ball that's going through here. But
Yeah.
she's a fucking mess, and that's what makes it good though. That's what makes her.
She's the
character-
villain who doesn't realize she's the villain, basically.
And that's the most dangerous kind of villain.
Exactly, Teresa. Yes.
Yeah, she gave me 5 Padmes, though. I definitely lost the will to live watching her.
Yeah. So yeah, her badge has allowed her to think she has the moral high ground, even though she's drinking her way, lying to her therapist, not supposed to be drinking on the job. On the first night
Yeah.
she meets a guy, she has sex with him, thinks he's 55 and he's actually 75 and a gangster. She works for the ATF and then goes back and helps him with some stuff. And
And he never asked her.
No, wait, she also hung out to dry her fucking witness and got her killed.
Oh,
Yeah, I was
that's
just about to
right.
mention
Damn
that.
right.
That's what I was gonna say. Is everything
It's a
she did
perfect
was
example.
self-serving. Yeah, and nothing at
Self-serving.
time has
It's
Sly
not just
ever.
self-serving. She's a federal agent that is a terrible judge of character.
Yep.
Brilliant.
Yep.
Well, and not only
Yes.
that, like everything she
Good.
did, like you said, led to the problems that's like it's everybody else's problems are kind of rooted in the shit that she's doing, serving her own selfish reasons to not because she's constantly worried about somebody finding out that she was first of all dating him to begin with, or even with him. So like she's constantly trying to cover up this, that, and the other, and those little moments of spots of things of her trying to clean up her tracks have now caused this whole other issue. And then she gets involved where she shouldn't have gotten involved in the first place. And as you said, Sly never asked her to, and he
Never
even goes
asked
out
her.
of his way to try and help her in certain things later on, but it still blows up in his face, like with the whole $1 million thing right here. Like that's the whole thing. Like I was saying, is no good deed goes, unpunished.
Mhm.
But she's the self-serving, basically self-destructive character, but she's trying to pass off her destruction onto others now.
Yeah.
And that's
I
where
thought
what
there-
makes her a villain, basically. So sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's no worries. I just thought you were done. There was a great moment where she's talking to the witness that she gets killed,
Mhm.
and when they're at the little thing, and she just finally looks at her and goes like, the vodka, and says something like kind of snarky about it. It's like, yeah, you really think people can't smell the vodka on you? You know what I mean? It's maybe I might relate to that, but yeah, we've all maybe
Oh, yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, added too. Yeah. I've been there, and you're like, but in her case, it's showing that she is delusional. I mean, she really thinks, I'm high. No one knows that I'm a mess. No one knows I'm drinking. No one knows I'm fracking the Rocky Balboa. And it leads to such horrible things. I want her to die and die slowly.
Well,
Oh,
here's the
wow.
awesome part about this is that
Yeah.
everything that she's doing is centered around her trying to take down the Irish bike mob.
Mhm.
And she doesn't even, and her entire department isn't even the one that does it. It's
Nope.
Sly. And
It's
she's
Sly.
able to take the credit for it because of some of the information she gave to him, but he's just trying to do his own thing.
And now
Well,
the
and-
town literally is better off with the Italian mobster running the casino, who's probably not just going to kill everybody he sees, who wants to work with the, I'll use the word community, when these other guys were like killing each other and like just, running roughshod. So,
Yeah.
Well, and one of my favorite parts of it too was when she called Dwight and was like, "You need to give this biker dude up because I did this thing for you." And he was like, and this was when he was in the midst, like in the height of his war with the biker dude, and he was like, "I'm not giving him up. I didn't give those people up 25 years I was in jail. I'm not gonna give this guy up now." Like that was his character. Like he wasn't going to give up. Like he's not a narc. Like he's not gonna
Not a
start
snitch. Principles.
He's
Well,
not a
and it's not
snitch.
just that too. It's also, you got to think of it maybe, and I could be wrong with this, but maybe it's also from, like, he's never asked her for a favor yet, right? And that's the thing with the mob is always, you owe somebody a favor, you're in their debt.
Yep.
Like, and he doesn't want that, especially with somebody who's a member of the AT fucking F. Right? Because I'm
Well,
sure he's
and
taking
he's
that
not a
shit as a
snitch.
consideration. Well, yeah, that's a big part of it too. But also, he wants to take care of his own things too. But go ahead, Script.
You're forgetting this one other aspect. He doesn't want to be part of a federal agency or any sort of local law division because he just doesn't want that headache. But the other mob guy has the local police in his pocket.
Yep.
That
and
too,
that
yeah.
scene where he
That's
comes
true.
out and he's got his hand in his pocket. He's like, "Listen, I got a 45 in here, and I am fast enough to hit at least one of you." And then, the cops go off and he goes back. He's like, "I forgot I left my gun at home."
Yeah. It's like, I don't know what harebrained idea that Irish fuck put in your heads. But I suggest you turn around, get back in that squad car, because he's like, I got a whatever kind of gun in here, blow a hole in you the size of a fucking cannon or whatever.
There is so much to love about this show. Other things to mention is the music.
Well, that's my favorite
score.
character is just Dwight. Period. Like, unless you gotta
Dwight.
maybe gonna pick somebody besides Dwight. But
Yeah, I meant like side characters. Like and that's a good point, Tom. Like, because I asked Gary, I want to ask the rest of the panel as well. Like, because other than Dwight, because I mean Dwight was my favorite character too, obviously, but there's so many other characters. So Tom, what other character was your favorite?
I guess I got to go with Bodhi too, because, I noticed the moment it was like he was going to turn, or I thought he was going to turn, it really irked me. And if the other characters had moments like that, it didn't irk me so much.
Sure. Okay.
I mean,
Bodhi?
I don't mind Tyson. I like I like the mirror there, but I don't like him as a character per se. And maybe it's the actor, maybe it's the way he's written. I'm not 100% sure. But I mean, because I like the dynamic between him and his dad and the whole idea there, but there's something about that character specifically that I don't know what it is. But yeah, I'd pick him otherwise. But yeah, I guess Bodhi, I suppose.
Okay. Perfect. And before we get the rest of the panel to say theirs, Gary's got to bounce. So thank you so
Sorry.
much for coming on. No, don't worry about it, dude. Thank you so much for coming on, Gary. It was really
fun.
Yeah, it was awesome
We
to
can
talk
do
to you.
another one. I'm fine with that. I love this show. If you haven't seen this show, see this show.
Well, you're gonna do one on your channel, right? Or like
Yeah,
on Nerdrotic Live.
Either
I'll-
Nerdrotic Live or daily. I'm going to do a review. I haven't decided. The life of YouTube, things change.
I hear you. Well, if you
Things
do a
change.
panel review, I'll
will.
come on for sure. Definitely, I want to talk about it more with you. So
Hell yeah, I want to do
anytime.
like a breakdown, like of episodes. That could take time though.
Ooh, that would be
Might have
fun.
to be
I'm
multiple
down.
live streams on that one. So,
Yeah.
but I'll send you all invites.
That'd be
Yeah.
awesome.
Let's do it.
Hey, it
well,
was
before
great
you
to
go
see you,
though,
Tom.
Watch Venture Brothers.
Yeah.
Gary. Gotta get you to watch that show.
Dude, we get our movie this year, I think.
Yeah, I know.
I think we
and
did
Venture
it,
Brothers,
so.
and you guys check out Silicon Valley too, because it's
Yeah.
great. But before you go, Gary, plug anything you got coming up, because I know you have a show later tonight, right?
Yeah, I got Forbidden Frontier, our paranormal show. Working on a video, so no Nerdrotic Nooner tomorrow. Sorry. And I'll be back Real BBC Tuesday, Friday Night Tights with Amala from Unapologetic. I have to think about, and PragerU. And then after that, Brittany Venti joins us. And hopefully she'll be back on Twitter and we don't ever have to talk about Eliza Blue ever again.
God, wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice?
That would be nice.
Thank you so much again, Gary, and I'll see you next time, bud.
Hey, thanks for having me on. And it was great
Anytime.
talking to you, Script and Tom and Miss Martin. Y'all and chat. Be well. Thank you.
Bye.
Gary.
Take
Have
care.
a good
Good
one.
one.
Yeah, I can't. I wish I could go back to 3.5 weeks ago when I didn't know who Eliza Blue was.
I know, me too, dude. I'm
Eliza
oh,
Blue,
God.
who?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Eliza
that's where
who?
I am.
God. Okay, Script Doctor. What is your favorite character other than Dwight?
Okay, I'm at a crossroads between Fred the security guy and Badface. There's just something charming.
Fred the security guy? You mean like the fat dude?
The fat dude who's trying to get his life together, who in his introduction he gets smacked in the face with a water bottle.
Yeah, he's the one I felt the most sorry for, I guess, in the long run.
But
But
the thing
yeah,
is, like he comes into his own a little bit. Like when he gets the bat and he's just going at those bikers. It was
Oh
pretty
my
funny.
God, that was
And
hilarious.
then also Badface, because intimidating. As I mentioned earlier, I really like Jonathan Joss. He's been in King of the Hill. He
Yep.
was in Parks and Recreations. Done a ton of other stuff, and just the fact that when he, Stallone's like, let's get Badface, and he's like, oh, okay, maybe, but he's rough around the edges. And then Badface says, as Gary mentioned earlier, I really appreciate you inviting me. I don't have many friends. And then you find out later, like, why isn't Badface here? Well, he punched somebody and he hurt his hand. Oh, yeah, he punched him through a plate glass window. And you're like, I wish I could have seen that. But yeah, Fred the security guard was also a charming character. So those two I really enjoyed, because every time they spoke, you paid attention to them. And I'm like, that's good. That's good acting. That's good writing. That's good directing. That's what you need to do in your stuff.
Great side characters. Teresa, what was yours?
Oh, I know it's unoriginal, but I loved Bodhi. I thought he was just so cool. He was so chill, so horrified, if you will, about everything he was seeing happen, and then just randomly, and he's just randomly telling him, "Oh, by the way, there's crypto," and he finally realizes you're stealing like thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, and he goes
Millions.
millions, and then he goes, did you think you were the only
criminal?
What did he say? Yeah, the only criminal in Tulsa. And all of a sudden he's like, he transformed, and I'm like, damn, dude.
Yeah.
You're chill until you're not.
Teresa, you'll love this scene so much more when you watch Silicon Valley. You'll be like, oh my God, because it's just really, really funny the way that they correlated that. He was my favorite too. I liked him a lot, and I really, really liked Manny, because I love the character like evolution of him being like such a little bitch, especially like he was like so beta, to the point where he, like, when he gave that whole speech to Dwight, like, I'm never gonna run again. Like, I really love that when he was like, I'm never doing that again. I'm never gonna live my life on the run. I thought that was a really cool scene.
And
I didn't like any of the female characters. I thought the female characters.
I didn't mind Dana Delaney. I like her character, but now Gary's got me questioning her more, and I don't like that.
I know. I'm like,
see, because that's the thing, is I see it as her as a parallel to, or a juxtaposition, I should say, to the other one, because she seems like she'd be good for Sly as opposed to the other thing around. But as we know, like I said, no good deed goes unturned. So something's going to happen somewhere between the horse, the husband, and the place itself that's going to come between them eventually, I'm sure, because he's never going to be allowed to be happy as long as the show has to go on.
Yeah, but and I mean, like, I like the daughter. I think she was great, but
very interesting character, very layered character. I think that the fact that we had that whole debate of what the meaning of her dropping that info on her dad means a lot. What do you think, Script, on that part?
Oh man, it's a tough one, because I think she was trying to make a point, and her.
Well, I didn't mean that specifically, but I meant her character. But yeah.
Oh, her character. Oh, I think it was fantastic for her arc.
Mhm.
I mean, you can tell that she's in conflict where she wishes she didn't have all that time away from her father, and she's grown accustomed to him not being around, and his presence is hurting her emotionally. And then when we get over that hump and we find out that she's trying to make amends and have a relationship with her dad, especially when she's getting random phone calls and then her husband gets attacked, it's really, tough on her. And you can feel how Sly's character is really bothered that now that he's back and things are supposed to be rebuilding, there's this other conflict that's coming because some clown is insulted that he got revenge on a man that assaulted his daughter. It's like that's beneath what they should be doing.
And real quick, somebody else brought up Mitch in the chat, the bartender, that it was their favorite character.
Yeah, I do
John
like him
Kelly.
too.
I really liked him as well. And one of the things I really loved about his character actually was, well, not just because he was like super loyal and stuff like that, which he was a good character, but also another thing that they kind of trickled through the series was that he liked to play music. And then by the end, he was like the headliner for the bar. And I thought that was really cool because he was just like, yeah, I mean, I could play some music because he was like, yeah, we got a band going. We'll go, like, we'll do this, we'll do that. And then like he's the band guy, and he's just like, and he sings really, really well. So it was just like a really cool kind of seeing that.
I might have
evolve
picked
as well.
him, but I have a feeling his character is going to have more to like come. Like I said, he kind of is the mirror of Sly at that age just before he went to prison, right?
But he's already
Mhm.
been in jail a couple of times. So
He
Yeah.
has already.
Yeah.
So well,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. That sets him up for a fact if he even gets in trouble for something little, he's probably going to look at some serious prison time for whatever reason. So like I was saying here is like the whole him setting up of the music thing. I think that he's going to hit a point where he's going to have an option that things are taking off for him that way. And he has to, well, does he go with that or does he stay with these guys? And it's going to be kind of a similar thing, but then maybe jail will come into the matter or something like that'll happen. And, he'll try to take the fall for some. I can't wait to see what they do with this character. I think this is one of the characters that there's a lot being set up for because he felt like he was, how do I look? He was kind of just there for the first few episodes and we didn't really get much of him till a little bit later, if I remember right.
Mhm.
And then when he
was,
became a
set up as
partner,
he was set up as the architect of the archetype of the bartender that gives advice, the listening bartender, type of-
yeah.
and who's taking care of his old man who can't be left alone, which is also funny.
Yeah.
But to me, the reason I say this is because he feels like to me he's the one who's on the most equal footing with Sly right now, as far as they have that respect and that rapport. To where, like, when he asks him to be his partner and all that kind of stuff, and all that kind of, they have that whole business together, and he does feel kind of like an equal partner and all that kind of stuff. To me, there's just something about his character. I feel like there's gonna be like a father-son thing there, maybe later. There's something being set up for later on. I have a feeling. I could be wrong. But yeah. See, he does kind of remind me of one of the characters from Yellowstone too.
I wouldn't know yet because
That's why I think I called him
Stacy
Stacy instead of Mitch. But yeah,
I will know soon because I'm gonna be watching Yellowstone really soon. We're planning on reviewing that season by season. That's gonna be really fun coming up. And
or
this
Casey
was
or whatever.
this
I
was
said earlier.
basically the last scene of the show with this poor girl just
Watching her daddy
devastated.
taken away again.
Oh,
Yeah.
horrid.
Ugh, like that just breaks my heart. But Script Doctor, as the resident writer of the room here, how would you go about bringing Sly back for season 2?
It'd be an investigation and possibly lead into a trial. So we get a brand new setting where we're dealing with judges and district attorneys
Ooh.
and lawyers. Lots of fun things to have for Sly to either grease the wheels or make deals about. I wouldn't be surprised if they did a choice where it's like, we know you're associated with this family in New York. If you can finally turn state's evidence after 25 years,
Yeah.
We'll leave you alone back in Tulsa. Because and then I think it's going to play out to the point where whatever they have on him is not enough to really hold up in court. And he's probably going to use Bodie to help him. Any of his misdeeds would be laid onto the dead Irish mob that he already took care of.
Right,
There's a lot of fun. There's a lot of things that you can tell he's going to explore after you watch Yellowstone. After I've read a bunch of the other screenplays, and like I read the pilot episode for his latest female-led spy thriller that's coming out later this year, I believe. And we can talk about that towards the end of the show. But I mean, there's some interesting aspects that he's going to take.
That's going to be interesting.
Most likely going to take in this for follow-up. And I think it's going to be quite invigorating.
That'll be really interesting if they go about it the law way, because that kind of like...
It's a new field of area.
But it also kind of like really goes in a way of like how like The Wire was structured is like how like season by season they did like the different aspect of like the American society and culture. So like in this one, it'll be a little bit different. So that, like if they go about that, it'd be like, okay, first season's about the mob, him getting out, how he's setting himself up. The second season's about dealing with politics and getting established and, you know, getting who you bribe, who you know, politicians, the law, things like that, and how he's going to go about navigating that. And then you can go from there, kind of thing. So that would be interesting to see in that sense. Let me get a couple. Did you want to say something, Teresa?
Oh no, we're good.
Okay, let me get some of these super chats real quick. Darth Bobcat for $5. Thank you. Says, I think my issue with Tulsa King is that Stallone had to be morally right or justified in every situation, even when he even went to jail for a mercy killing. Anybody want to comment on that?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind.
Go ahead.
Yes, that's true. But because of the show, and I think what it is trying to accomplish, I think it has to be so. We're not dealing with Breaking Bad, where it's a man sliding into something evil. That he has to be likable and morally justified, because otherwise you're dealing with an anti-hero. And I don't think that that's what they're going for here. And they're letting the villains be the other guys. That's what makes it so old-fashioned in a way satisfying for me, because you've got a good guy and a bad guy. Because even when the bad guy does bad things, he has a good reason to it, and including the mercy killing. That's my thoughts.
Well, this is a little bit different because the show is not retroactively making Stallone morally right. He starts off with a moral center and a compass, and that's what is guiding him. The universe is not bending around him to make him right as a result, because he does make mistakes. He does screw up. He does find himself in harder positions, but he's sticking to the same moral code that he's had with him since the beginning. And we don't know how he's been able to reconcile that moral code with joining the mafia yet, but hopefully that'll be explored later. But he has, he understands what the rules are with his business and what he's supposed to be doing and the responsibility to that. And he is keeping himself true to those rules. And what we're seeing is a show where other people that should be abiding by those rules are not following them either. And as a result, there's conflict. They find him threatening. They find what he's doing is going to encroach on their own operations or insult their own character, even though he is not doing anything outside of what the rules have been established at the start of the show. So I think, this is not the show working its way to make this guy a king, because he's solving problems based on his own wits and what he has available to him. He's not a character that is making a phone call to someone else that we've never met before, and then their actions are helping him solve a problem. That's not the case.
Right.
So
which you had an issue with Yellowstone here and there, but yeah.
Well, one of the better written characters. There's a lot of things I find funny about that character.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail that, but no, I agree with you, Script, and I thank you, Darth Bobcat, for supporting Nina, but I have to disagree here. I see where you're coming from, though, but I think the mercy part of it, the whole thing of him being justified and that whole thing, had more to do with Chicky than it did with anything else. Because outside of that, Script's right. All his other things that he's done, everything else about this show is how he's done nothing but fuck up. Like he fucked up his family. Like his daughter don't talk to him no more. Technically, even though, he has the balls and the justification to do it, as far as the power behind him to fuck with these bikers. In actuality, these bikers were well within their rights to defend their ground. I mean, they were there first.
Yep.
They didn't do anything to spark this. The other guys did. Like,
they fucked up.
That's just another example of what I'm getting at. Is it's like, no, Stallone is really definitely a force of nature to have to be reckoned with. But what he does is he's still got that moral center, which I like. Script is
he still plays by those rules, but because he plays by those rules, the whole world is. I mean, this is the other part too. That what I like about this show is that the universe around him is actually trying to make things harder for Stallone than easier.
Yeah,
and the rules that he has set in motion all come from a place of a certain moral certainty, and it's that mentality that actually causes all the repercussions. It's his causes create an effect that make things harder for him. Like, he didn't want to kill that guy handcuffed to the radiator, but he's like, I can't
Mhm.
let you die burning to death or suffocating. It's too long. It's too painful. It's not a good death. And he's like regretful instantly before he even does it. He's like, I have to do this or else you're going to suffer
It
far
was a
more.
mercy kill,
Mhm.
really.
It was, and it was not something that he wanted to do and not something he would have done in the first place. But I
Mm-mm.
mean, he tried shooting the handcuffs off, didn't work. And
Yeah, I wonder why that didn't work. That was kind of weird though that it didn't work. I was
maybe he
like,
kept on missing. I don't know. The other part too is like, you think, man, Salai's a big guy. You think he couldn't rip that radiator out of the wall?
I would think too, but yeah.
But I mean, again, they tried to just put him in they wanted to make sure that that situation was like, he was in a tight situation, panicked. He had limited amount of time to think and act. The only thing he could do is do a mercy killing, apologize to the guy, and then did it. And everything that came out of that code, that like, I'm not going to let a friend suffer, that
Mhm.
moral code caused him to lose 25 years with his daughter, to be on the outs and have a lot of doubts about him with the mob family while he's inside, to the point where they even try to kill him. Like it all
Well,
comes as a byproduct from him just trying to do something right in a terrible situation.
Yep.
and I think
Yeah.
from the beginning too, it's like literally from the very first minute he said, I regret my entire life. Like that was like basically his like the start of the show was like, I regret being in the mob and having gone to prison for 25 years, because like knowing what I know now, like I would have never done any of this. So I think it's more like, you know, he was brought up in the life, and then he followed that path. But that's why when he was like talking to Tyson, and he would tell Tyson things like, you know, there was a line that he said to him when Tyson was trying to get him to you know, admit that he's good at his job or whatever, and he was like, listen, you might, he said something like, you might be bad, but you're not, you might not be a Boy Scout, but you're not a bad guy either. So it's just like that you would have to have something in you to be kind of like a murderer, and like be able to like do what Chicky did. And that something was in Chicky. And that's why he was like, I mean, what had that guy done to deserve being tied to a radiator and freaking burned and branded the way that Chicky guy was
Well,
doing to him? We don't even know what that guy did.
exactly. And there's another reason for this too, that it has to go down the way it does. And I was like thinking about this just as we were talking about it. And that is because we don't know how many men Stallone has killed over the years. They never really addressed that part. He
Mm-mm.
just got caught for the one time he was trying to do
Exactly.
a fucking mercy killing. Because 9 times out of 10, if you're doing a hit for the mafia, you're doing it very controlled, and you're getting rid of the body, and you're doing all these other things. And by the time they find the body, they have no idea who the fuck did it, because chances are they're like 20 people want this guy dead, right? This
Yeah.
was a situation where he made a choice at the last minute. Like script was saying, he didn't know what to do. I don't know if
Mhm.
maybe the cuffs were a certain kind of stainless steel or something that wouldn't fucking, the gun just wasn't
Maybe they
working
just
right.
didn't have hollow points in their
I don't
pistol.
know what. Yeah, I
Well,
don't know
Game
what
of
the
World
deal
says
was,
bullets
but
can't shoot chain.
shoot chain. Yeah, there's that part
I
too.
didn't know
That,
that.
Some
like
parts
that's kind of
can't.
like a
I've seen
movie
the
thing.
chain
But,
link armor thing get it blown away by like a 45.
I mean, you chink it up enough, you can usually break it. But yeah, like point being
Mhm.
is that in this case, there's like so many things that factor into it happening to be the way it was, because he wouldn't have got caught. You're setting up Chicky as this bad guy for many reasons.
Because he's
And
pathetic. Chicky's pathetic.
yeah.
Chicky was a piece of shit. It's
And it's
like,
the one,
Oh, yeah.
and usually, that's the thing, is usually when these guys get caught, it's when they do something that's not, out of the ordinary, right? Like that was kind of what I was getting to. So it was like, yeah.
all right. Well, great super chat discussion. Thank you, Darth Bobcat. And then we had Kenneth. Thank you so much for the $5. Says, I saw a little Tulsa King. I love what Stallone's character tells the brother when it's got when it's good to have a college degree on a job resume. Fact. Hey, that was a really good line too. See, there's so many good lines. Yeah, he said, people, an employer just wants wants to see you show up at a place at a certain amount of time for a certain, for a
Well,
certain time, and that's it. Like no one
It's an example of behavior as opposed to qualifications.
exactly.
And that's
Yeah, that's
why
why I call
this.
it an expensive piece of paper, but it's worth every penny.
And that's why I like the Tyson character, but I think it's the act. Maybe it's because he's too old. There's something about him that just, it's like, I like this idea, but I'm not jiving with this character. But like, yes, because it's reflective of young Stallone. He's at this point, Stallone's letting him make his choices like a man should.
Mhm.
But it's going to hit a point where, Stallone's going to have to realize that Tyson looks at him as like this father character, or father figure in his
Well-
life. And is he going to have to make a choice to tell him that this is not the life you should choose,
Well,
son?
He's done that a couple
Well,
Well,
times.
he's done that
Yeah,
a few
basically,
times in this
in a few
season.
ways around, but not in a way that his dad has too. But his dad has had to kind of do the opposite, where he's had to learn to let go, and hopefully his son learns it on his own, kind of thing. And it's a dynamic I love. It's just, that's what I was trying to get at earlier, is like, I love the character, I love where it's coming from. I just think it's the actor that maybe they picked as too old, or something about it is not clicking with me in that respect. But I don't know
Hey,
what it is.
George
That's just
is
a me
here.
thing. And we have George.
How you doing, everybody?
Hey, George, you
Sorry
missed
about
the
it.
whole combo, but I'm glad you're here. Hi.
Hi, just got
How
off
are
work.
you?
Doing good. I missed all of you.
Oh, I miss you too, buddy. What'd you think of Tulsa King?
I loved it. I've been working on a review for a week and a half now. I think it's incredible. I think
Aw,
it's kind
it's
of like
such a-
Goodfellas on the Great Plains.
Yeah, it's really good. It's got definitely got that Goodfellas feel. But actually, like it's interesting because I was gonna bring this up too. One of the things I love about Tulsa King is the fact that it was all like most of it anyway, as far as I know, was shot on location. It was shot in Tulsa. And a lot of it was like I like this Paramount Plus thing that they have where they show the different pictures of Tulsa, and then you can juxtapose the pictures of Stallone where it was.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And I think that's
the
really
center
cool.
I like the center of the universe. That's real. I didn't know
That's so
that place.
cool.
I was looking. That place is real. Of course, they say it's a little exaggerated, but it's pretty much like you can walk into that. You can walk into that center. Sorry, that's the dog.
No worries, don't worry about it.
So you can walk into that place and you can speak, and it's pretty interesting. But
I know
what
that's wild. I want to go do that. I think that's
Yeah.
cool.
I never knew about that place, but hold on, I'll have to deal with him in a second. But no, his daughter. I really liked his daughter. I was shocked. I didn't know that was her.
Oh, Spencer. Yeah.
Yeah, I had no clue. It's like the other day when I was going over something, I was like, they're like, that's Stallone's daughter. I was like, wow.
Wait, like his actual daughter is his
Yeah.
daughter?
Yeah. No,
Oh,
no,
no.
not the daughter in the
The horse,
show.
the woman that takes care of the horse, that was the barista.
Oh,
his
her.
I
That's his
think
daughter.
middle child daughter or his oldest one. I'm not sure.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool. I
Yeah.
didn't know that. That's awesome. Okay. All right. Well, that like I just really like the location shit because usually with shows it's like, oh, it's located in this show and then everything's shot in Vancouver, Canada. And I'm like, oh, like I don't like
Oh,
you
yeah.
know,
Well, the last
imagine
one
if
was shot in
Tulsa King
Alberta.
Yeah, imagine if Tulsa King was shot in Vancouver, a script doctor, you'd be like, that's not Tulsa. Like,
It was too
Vancouver.
rainy for Tulsa.
yeah. And then the other thing I really, really liked was the soundtrack. I really liked the music. I thought the score was really good, really fit with the series. Definitely got a good theme and everything.
I guess if I have to gripe about something about Taylor Sheridan, that's the one thing about all his shows I've never been too like, okay, I gotta watch that every time, is the intro and the main music parts. Like he's good at picking, like, especially with Yellowstone, like like country music stars and country music songs for the background. But like that's, if I have to complain about anything so far, that's it. Like I will skip through the beginning of Yellowstone quicker than shit.
Oh,
It
his
is one of the
opening
most
teasers.
boring intros. Yes.
His opening teasers and then his music montage moments, which are really just him stroking the fact that, hey, look, these actors are having fun riding horses or doing something. It's actually not contributing anything at all to the story. Like
That's
literally, we're watching a couple of people ride on horses out into the field, and it's just to music and it has nothing to do with anything that they're doing later on in the episode. It's just there to be there to try and make you
Tulsa
guys
King
think
is
that,
one of the better ones.
that
Though,
these
but yeah.
guys are real cowboys. I'm like, no, they're actors who grew up with some backgrounds there, but they're like, you push comes to shove, they're not going to be able to do the job.
Well, the Yellowstone
real
one
guys can.
script, to me, I think they got the same people who did the Discovery intro. I swear to God, because it's just that buffalo and all that other stuff blending into the cowboys and all this. And the music is very immemorable. Like no tune sticks out to me. Like,
Yeah, I agree.
mean,
What
like, I
about
used to be one of
Tulsa
those
King
guys-
though?
It's a little better.
Yeah, it's a little
better, but
I
not
agree.
still up to the par where I'd play it on Mead Radio, let's say.
Oh, well, I like the theme though. I thought the theme was good.
I have to get more used to it. It's
Yeah.
not catching me right away like some shows do. That's all I was saying. That I'm just trying to
Oh.
find something to gripe about. Really, that's it.
That's a good problem to have, Tom. We're like,
Boy,
what can I complain about? It's like,
That's
okay.
really all I can
Yeah.
for the most part.
I still think Hawaii Five-0 used to have the best intro.
That's what I mean. I like stuff
Ooh.
like that, George. I'm a big, huge fan of really good opening themes, and I want to be like waiting. Like there was some shows when I was a little kid, I didn't give a shit about the show,
Right.
but as soon as I knew
I
that
know.
something
I
was
just
on
like
right
the
here,
opening.
the moment I heard that theme song, I was there for that theme song, and then I was out the door.
I'm the same
Sopranos.
way, dude.
I love the Sopranos intro.
Yeah, Chris Toki says nothing beats the Sopranos.
See, there's
I still haven't seen it.
Deadwood
I
is
don't
around
know.
that time too, and I love Deadwood's opening too. And it's
Oh,
very
yeah.
simple, but yeah.
Powerful, powerful.
Oh.
I love
Okay.
this show. It's funny how his series are just dominating television, but it's interesting that it's not pervasive on YouTube. You know, it's like how do you have these #1 shows? Yet
You're right.
no one really talks about them on YouTube.
Well,
I mean,
YouTube's a whole different world in itself. I mean, all these shows that are on Paramount Plus that are Taylor Sheridan produced, or at least the few that he had on Peacock, they're all for the general audience, the Midwest audience, the people that are not on the coast. And even though the people on the coast do watch the shows, it's everyone who still has cable or satellite and not much on the internet side of things watch this type of stuff, and it speaks right to them because it's a value. It's got core values.
Right.
It's got interesting conflict. It's got drama. It's like Yellowstone is War of the Roses on a ranch. Tulsa King is, as you said, Goodfellas in Oklahoma, and that's kind of it's easy to digest for that audience, and
Yep.
it speaks
but
right
that's
into what they want, and there's nothing wrong with it too, and it's also taking advantage of the fact that it's also counter programming to the fantastical nature of superheroes and detective shows.
right?
Well,
You know,
Yellowstone's really grasping that audience that loved Dallas back in the day too. Because
You
it
really
can,
think so?
yes.
I always think
yes.
it's more like Sons of Anarchy with
Well,
cowboys.
that has that
Oh,
too,
no.
but like
And Sopranos a little.
one thing I noticed with Yellowstone, I think Yellowstone it captures a lot of that soap opera Dallas audience on top of because it was what #1 show last year streaming wise, as far as I know, or watched or whatever. So
See, that's what still confuses me. By the way, great to see you, Tom. Miss Martin Muses and Script Doctor missed all
yeah,
of you.
been too long, man. Hope you've been
Well,
good.
what I don't understand though is when you had Game of Thrones when it was #1 or Sopranos, the zeitgeist, everybody was talking about it. I hear talk about Tulsa King and Yellowstone every day from people in offices.
That's what I mean.
But
That's
don't hear it
exactly
on
what I'm talking
YouTube.
about.
But I don't know how come it hasn't penetrated you. Like, I don't get it. How can you be #1 and everyone's talking about it, except no one's talking about it in this sphere?
We're
I'll tell
talking
you-
about right now.
I was gonna
George.
say-
Yeah, we're chopped liver, I guess.
No, I don't mean it like that. Like,
No.
when you
I
type it
think
up
I
on
have an
Google-
answer though to George's question though, and I think the basic answer is kind of rooted in what I just said, and that is, yes, we've all seen it.
Mhm.
We know
Yeah.
a lot of people in our crews have seen it,
Right.
but it's not something we talk about because it's not capes and wizards, right? Like
It doesn't have any conflict behind the scenes of the show.
there's
either. I
that
mean,
too. There's a big part of it, and the other thing is like I said, it's reaching such a broad audience like Dallas and these other shows used to that are more the general audience beyond the normal geek out audience, and that's what The Sopranos used to do in certain other shows.
Well, and I think a lot
I could
of
be wrong, but
people-
script. I don't know if you have a different
with regards to
observation.
YouTube anyway, and I can attest to this because talking about shows you like just doesn't get clicks. Like that's
maybe
the
that's
thing.
what it
There
is.
is that
that's
too.
You
good.
said
That's
it
a good
out
point.
loud, Nina. That's what I
I'm
was
just
saying.
saying, it just doesn't.
Yeah, you're right.
It
There's
doesn't.
stuff that you like that doesn't get clicks, but the stuff that does get clicks are the speculation of what could happen next in an episode. One of the things that really bewildered me about some of the CW shows is the YouTube channels that would talk about, well, what's going to happen next episode? What's this rumor that we're going to do on these Berlanti productions? And they would get massive engagement.
They're the only part of that to make any money, probably. Script, you're right.
It might actually be the case because there's nothing good about the show, but for the fans that like it, they want to know what could happen next. For the people that hate it, they just want to listen to people talk about how terrible it is.
How
Those
they hate it.
for it. For something like Yellowstone in 1883, 1920,
1923.
and 1923, and Tulsa King, and later on Linus. any of the fan interaction you're going to find on them on social media is going to be, well, what do you think is going to
Twitter.
happen in the next episode?
Yeah.
And that's going to have your
Okay.
engagement. That's where you're going to see your tens of thousands of views on those channels.
Gotcha.
Anything with regards to recapping it, like something like this, even though I think this is really like, this is a water cooler discussion of a great show. This is kind of what YouTube should really have more inclination to push in their algorithm. But unfortunately they don't. But this is the type of thing that you kind of want to see, because it opens up, it's a commercial for the show, essentially, for those that haven't seen it. It opens up conversation. Oh, this is really good. Oh, these are the things that they're doing that makes it fun to watch. I got to sit down and watch this show.
And
that just doesn't track well on YouTube, because it kind of plays into their competition of like, oh, if you're going to be watching that show, then you're not watching YouTube. So we got to keep you watching YouTube.
Gotcha.
Right. And then the other thing actually that I was going to bring up, going back to the show, there was a point where I really thought that they were going to kill either Tyson's dad or mom or family, because they kept setting up the fact that, like, you know, Dwight kept telling him, like, this isn't the life for you. You may want to stop, blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, I went away because of whatever, and, you know, you don't want that life. And he kept, like, they kept hammering that. And the same with his father telling him, like, this is the wrong path you're choosing and blah, blah, blah. And so I figured that they were going to, because usually when they do that, like, you know, they end up killing one of the people, and then that person realizes, oh shit, like this
Like,
stuff
There
is real.
may be
Like
some
Game of
future
Thrones.
the Game of Thrones, yeah, like there may be some future repercussions on his father. That's true. That'll be a result of what happened. I was thinking sometimes what'll happen here is they'll end up giving this character like a girlfriend, and then something will be done to them, and then they have
Like
to,
in Breaking Bad with that chick.
Well, Tyson does have a girlfriend. She's introduced in the last episode.
Is it?
Excuse me.
Yeah,
With
yeah.
him
He brings
yeah.
her to that.
You guys
got
gotta
that opening.
forgive me. I have not watched this show since it was on originally.
Wait,
So like I have not rewatched it. So yeah,
What
He
was
brings her.
Tyson has a girlfriend now?
Yeah, in the last
the very
few-
last episode,
before
yeah.
Sylvester Stallone, before Dwight gets arrested. You know what? The opening of their casino.
Yeah,
slash-
yeah.
We get a hint of it when he's on the phone with
Oh,
her, and then
that's
he gets pulled over and then put
there
in
you
jail,
go.
and
So
they take
that's
him
already
home.
set up. There you go.
Yeah,
So-
and he puts
then
his
we
arm
see her at
around
the very end
her.
of the casino.
That's how you know they're girlfriend and boyfriend. They're just sitting there with touching.
Oh, that's no, because he like introduces him to Dwight, her to Dwight.
Yep.
Hold on, I just pulled
Yeah,
up
so
his
right there
name.
you go. So that's already kind of set up as a
So she's gonna die. Okay, got it.
maybe. I'm just saying, I'm positing here, but I mean speculating, whatever you want to call it. But like,
There it is. Her.
Yep. She's
It's
gonna be
not his
Apollonia.
it's not his sister.
Oh my
This is
god.
not Milf Mama.
George.
or she could cause conflict in other ways too. Like that's a thing that's great about Taylor. Like script
Yeah,
was
you
pointing
gotta
out
stop
is
this life, baby.
you could think he's gonna go left when he turns around and goes
Right.
right sometimes. Yeah.
I almost thought that she's undercover. I don't know why it was just something like. you'll
But he
see.
always seems to find a way back to going left, which is great too, which I like sometimes too. I don't have a problem with that
Yeah,
either.
You could suspect that she's undercover, but with the show has established that he's been in a relationship with her since before he even knew Dwight, and he was just a
that's
cab
true.
driver then.
Re-
so-
oh, I
They were
didn't
talking on the
know.
phone. They were talking on the
Oh,
phone.
I thought that was someone different, maybe. Okay.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that now you guys brought it up.
I
But
don't
like, yeah,
remember
that's
that.
what I'm saying. I'm stretching to remember because it's like been a month or so since the show's been done or whatever, close to it. And
No worries.
Yeah.
And you know they're working on a prequel also.
I heard.
Really?
I
Yeah,
heard it
they're
was
gonna
a
make it-
sequel
yeah.
and a prequel. Yeah.
Before they got season 2 is coming, but they wanted to show Dwight his mafia years, going up the ranks.
in the
before-
80s is what
yeah.
I heard. Yeah.
Okay, well, there may be something should we maybe bring up because I know script you didn't like 1883. I loved it, but like
No, I loved
I get some of your complaints so far that I've heard.
He
But
just hated the girl in it.
do you
Drove
think
me
Taylor
insane.
Sheridan's gonna get too big in his britches with too many spin-offs, prequels, and sequels and all that shit?
He's,
I mean,
he's
that
ru-
turned into a
already running
problem?
himself thin because I read Linus and he's wrote that with a woman and her husband who is a former NHL hockey player,
Mhm.
and it's not a great pilot. It's
Oh.
missing.
What
a
is
lot of-
Lioness? What's
Linus
Lioness
is-
script? I haven't heard of that one.
Well, it's not released yet. I have
Oh.
had the pilot script. It's on my page. I reviewed on my Patreon. I did not get permission to share the script yet. In fact, the stipulations is that I can reveal the script the day after it premieres.
Oh, okay.
But it's basically about a CIA program where women soldiers in various different parts of the military are recruited and sent to infiltrate high profile targets in the Middle East by befriending some of their children or whatnot to find out where they are so they can do an assassination assassinate them or capture them in for interrogation, either or. The pilot has a bunch of time jumps. It does have kind of a Mary Sue character. The other part too is the reason that she's a Mary Sue character, she's not well defined. We don't understand her wants, her needs, her goals, anything of that nature. And the same thing goes for the head of the program, who is also a woman. Don't understand their wants, needs, or goals. Lots of characters introduced. However, it does have a lot of action, and I think people will ignore the character stuff because of all the action that's in the pilot.
Does this sound good to you? Like I don't have any. Is it like a La Femme Nikita style?
No.
Okay.
No.
See, here's where I think that Taylor has his weak point, and I will say this, and that's female characters. Because what was her name, Elizabeth or Emily Blunt or whoever it was in Sicario. Whoever the main kid, like she was
Emily
the
Blunt,
least.
I think it was Emily.
Yeah,
Blunt.
she was my least favorite part of the movie because it's like either you get on the fucking pot, lady, or get the fuck off. I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ. A blind person could see what's going on here, and you just are being an idiot at this point. But like that character aggravated me. And Scripps right, as much as I love Beth in Yellowstone, she has some Mary Sue aspects to her.
Yeah.
I can't wait until I watch it and I can
because she's so likable.
I don't like Beth. I understand the character. I'm sick of the thing with the brother. But what drove me crazy, I loved 1883, except every time the girl was the teenage daughter, I just had to. I couldn't take her.
Well, she's the crux of the show.
I didn't mind her so much. I got where it was coming from. She acted like a typical teenage girl. I could see that.
And they tried to hide it through the elegance of what would she say as an old Western version of this?
And the lines. I was like, I loved everyone's lines again, but her. Yeah, look.
Yeah, but Script, do you think teenage girls have changed all that much over there?
Yeah, I doubt that they're using poetry to describe breathing. Sitting there. And
I think if anything, they've degenerated over the last 30 years. But
I just meant in the sense of how, like, I don't know, I'm not necessarily sure of all your gripes with the show, so like I can't speak.
I love 1923. I will tell you, I love 1923. A lot of people say it's slow, but I guess I always found westerns to have a little slower pace, unless you're talking about.
They usually
Silverado
start really slow. Westerns anyway.
They're not supposed to, but the some of the ones that in the tail end of westerns as they're being made in Hollywood, they kind of got a slower start. The other part too is there's also the indulgence of the spaghetti western where they really wanted to show they're out in the middle of nowhere. We want to really hit it home that they're in the middle of nowhere. So here
they're in the desert.
7 minutes.
Yeah.
I still think the greatest western ever made outside of Lonesome Dove has to be Deadwood. I mean, that series.
As far as television westerns, maybe, yeah.
I thought you were gonna say Tombstone, but that's a movie.
Movies are different, but like Deadwood is one of my favorite westerns from television. Sorry, Teresa.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I'm very glad that you did that preface because I would take away your Texas card because you get thrown out of Texas if you do not worship at the altar of Lonesome Dove.
I love Lonesome Dove.
I was about to say I'm just glad you did that because I was about ready to jump in and start. Medieval here.
Yeah, I didn't really
heresy.
I didn't really love Return to Lonesome Dove because I like the original character. I wish the actors would have come back. I didn't like that time. Tommy Lee Jones was switched out with John Voight.
But the problem with Return to Lonesome Dove is the problem with Rings of Power. It wasn't written by the author. The Streets of Laredo was, and that's why that was so badass.
Oh yeah.
I worship Lonesome Dove and everything.
I understand. Watch it every year. It's brilliant. Beautiful.
Grumpy Old Ninja. Let me get the super chat real quick. Yeah. Grumpy Old Ninja, thank you for the $5. Says Nina and Panel. Isn't it nice to actually have a good show to talk about? Also, I rather like the character Badface. Hell yeah. It's really nice to talk about something good for once. And Badface is freaking awesome. He's John Redcorn. I love him.
Do you know what was it that he said when he was in when Dwight needed them all to go beat down on the motorcycle gang and he shows up because I forget
The
the
Yeah, we
friend
were
name.
talking
line?
about it earlier. We were,
Yeah,
I
the
love
friend.
that.
thanks for inviting me. I don't have a lot of
I don't
friends.
have a lot of
I
friends.
love that.
He was like Eeyore. He's like, I don't have a lot
Yeah.
of friends.
Who do we get to kill? You know, it's kind of like that. I'll
That-
do it for you. It was just
That was a good line. Kenneth Dowling for $10. Thank you. Says off topic, Nina. I wanted to give you a huge thank you. Last time I asked Nardotic about heroes and powers, you gave me awesome advice. It got me on track, Nina. You're 1 in a million. Oh, I'm so glad that it helped. Thank you, Kenneth. And also for $5 says I'm out. Everyone have a great week. Be safe and be great. Thank you so much, Kenneth, for all your support. And thank you for being here tonight. Laud, thank you for the $10. Says great show breakdown and great guests. Thank you, Nina. You're very welcome. Thank you for being here and hanging out with us. So we've been going for like 2 hours, 18 minutes or so. I think we basically covered our the show pretty well. Would you guys agree? Do you guys have anything else you want to talk about?
The only other thing I could think of was what was brought up earlier in the chat too, that I brought up before we even started the show.
Okay,
Tom,
yeah, please,
if you
Tom,
want
talk-
to.
yeah,
Otherwise,
yeah,
it was
go
just a real
for
quick
it.
thing. Because Tom
Yeah.
Siebert said season 1 ends in a way that does, because they didn't know if it would be a one and done. If it was, that was the legit ending. Now it's a good cliffhanger. I don't know if you read something somewhere and know something I didn't, but I had asked these guys before the show started if you felt that way, because I do know that they weren't sure if it was going to have a season 2. By the way, Sly was talking in one of the interviews I'd watched, and then when it did get renewed, it was real near the end of the run. So I was thinking this ending feels kind of like a reshoot to where they're making sure they had a setup for season 2. But otherwise, the series was written in a way, and they had really good endings for a lot of stuff there. If needed be, that was going to be the ending too. So I didn't know if you guys felt that way too, or what. I don't know.
I felt there was supposed to be another episode. Personally, I felt.
See, that's what I thought too. Is I thought I originally heard it was a 10 episode run too. So I didn't know if something got cut down since they knew they were going to season 2. So they saved stuff for season 2 and just tacked that ending on and cut out a complete episode, or what?
I don't know. What I don't know. I just felt I didn't know it was supposed to have 10 episodes, but I felt.
I
when
thought I had
watching
heard
it-
that or read that
Yeah,
somewhere. I
that
could be
makes
wrong,
sense.
but
No, that makes sense, Tom. But what I felt like watching episode 9, I felt like there was supposed to be another episode coming. It's like I don't know. It was just
Well,
a
that's
gut
just a
feeling.
good cliffhanger, right?
there's
right?
that too.
Okay.
Yeah.
One thing that makes me feel like either this was either a reshot ending or an alternate ending that they shot just in case they
Right.
had a second season is the fact that at the very end, it's a very intimate bit. It's basically 3 cast members, bunch of extras, and a limousine or a car to take them away.
Mhm.
It's really, really tight. Doesn't have much else going on. You could literally have ended that show with, the ATF agent has lost their job and they're done. The casino's a hit. Everybody's fine. He's got it. He's reconciled with his daughter, and his grandkids are here, and he's learning about his grandkids and his son-in-law, and everyone is happy. And you got that musical outro by Mitch, and boom, you're done. Perfectly fine. But then they just add that thing as, there's someone at the door for you, and it's like that. It's very tacked on. It's very it feels almost.
It
last
does a
minute.
little bit.
But
Okay.
I mean, it just might have been something that they were like, listen, they probably pitched it to Sly and said, listen, this will be a one and done if you don't want to do it anymore. But this is what we want to do. And I think midway through production, he's like, I'm having a lot of fun. If we can get a second season, let's do it. And they said, okay, we got this backup ending we're going to shoot within production. And if the network wants us to do a second season, we can tack that on and we can go from there. If not, it's one and done, and we'll just say it's a great ride, just like 1883 was, or what have you. And I think that might have been the possibility, because it would have been cheaper to keep them all there and do that ending in the initial production run, as opposed to call
Right.
them all back to that set, which most likely would have been destroyed after they finished the production if they didn't use the physical location.
Right.
So yeah,
that's true
it
too.
just seems like an alternate and paid off.
I thought they always planned for multiple seasons. I didn't know that. I
Well,
thought
they
In some cases
planned,
do,
but
and
they don't
script
build
might be
money to
right.
Build it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Every showrunner plans for multiple seasons, but whether or not they get it, that there's no guarantees.
No, I meant story wise, like they
Nope.
plan. Oh, they don't plan everything
It's
out like.
Not
it's always better
necessarily.
to have a if you're going to do a serialized story,
Mm.
which Tulsa King and all these are, you focus on one plot point and you wrap that up by the end. You can always add in B and C plots that can have cliffhangers for something else to explore later on, but you make sure your main one is done. Yeah, it's incredibly foolish to just be like, oh, I'll
You
just set up
risk
all these
a
plots and
lot.
never pay them off at the end of the series
Right.
or season, because you don't know. You do
Right.
not know if you're going to get a second season until a little bit over midway through the first.
Well, not
After
only
the
that,
third.
I think that's probably how we fell into, like, George, before you got in here, we were talking about how the great thing about this show, and I feel some of the other Taylor shows, are that, you know, stuff happens, right? Not a lot of stuff is left hung over to be dealt with later on, like a lot of these other shows. Like, we get, you know, most of the time instant satisfaction or gratification, whatever you want to call it, from the stuff that's happening on screen. We brought up the point of, you know, that revelation of what happened to Sly's Dwight's daughter in the show, right? Instantly there's a reaction, he's in motion, he deals with it. Then, although that sets up, you know, things on the road, and that's what script's talking about, is you can use moments like that to keep building and building and building. But in most cases, what they would do with a show nowadays is they would set that up and then they wait 2 or 3 seasons to resolve it, right? They would just keep stretching it out
stringing
forever
along.
and ever. And that's what I think happens, is sometimes when these writers and shows runners and other people involved with this creative side of things, they get a little too ahead of themselves. And it's the same thing with some of these Marvel movies and some of these other things we talked about, where they look too far into the distant future and worry too much about setting shit up for the future. And they don't concentrate too much on the now. But it also comes from, you know, they don't have an ultimate plan at the end. I mean, sure, Taylor seems like he has, like, the way, and I could be wrong, but the way it feels like he sets a lot of his stuff up is what script's saying, is like, I know where I'm going with this season. I'm going to wrap up pretty much almost everything in a bow by the end of the season, except for this, this, and this. And, you know, and I agree, like, certain things that are being drug out for certain seasons, but they're there for a reason.
Right.
Like, you end it now, then that's kind of like your what's your
You at
face
least
from
get
the
the
friends.
satisfying ending for the audience. So,
Yeah.
like, the goal in Tulsa King is that Stallone is sent out there to set up an operation. What happens in that first season? Well, at the end of that last episode, he sets up his operation. He's got the casino, he's got the marijuana, he's got all that in there. But it's all a byproduct of every single goal that he has in each individual episode. First one is getting a driver, finding a front. Okay, does that. Next part, negotiating with the front and the supplier chain. Okay, next part. Oh, we've got we are selling NOS. We actually get into the rival biker gang. We got to deal with that now. Next part. Oh, the feds are getting on to us. Now we got to save and get ahead of them. Next part. It just goes, it resolves, it sets up every conflict in that episode and resolves it by the end. And then that resolution comes with an effect that can play into the following episode afterwards. That is why the show is well written. That is why the show is very popular. It is a basic fundamental of writing that, for some reason,
Hollywood forgot.
Other people, Hollywood has not forgotten this. The very desperate, lazy writers that are being hired for the streaming services to write these shows don't know how to do it.
You're saying they don't know how to do it, like they don't have the ability, or they've just.
If they did, we wouldn't be seeing the alternative. I mean, they're being hired because the studios got frightened with regards to their streaming services, that they needed content. They didn't care how good it was. They just needed it to hold on to and retain subscribers. And now they're paying the price for it.
Because I thought, well, you know better than me, so I take your word as gospel. But what about?
Don't do that.
No, I mean, in that industry,
ask questions, because it's always great. Because you always ask the good questions that everyone in the audience is always wondering in the back.
Well, and Taylor Sheridan's an accident or an anomaly in the industry too, George. That's another thing you have to understand.
Remember, I know he was an actor. He was an actor.
Yeah, that was the thing. He was, and I wouldn't call him a failed actor, but he was somebody who never really made it to the heights of what he wanted to.
He's a character actor that wanted to be a leading man, and then realized he's not suited for that, and leaned into the character stuff.
But then in the meantime, he was writing all these little projects, and then it just so happened that he became part of Sicario, and that just kind of opened up this door from one door to another. Kind of like his writing, he used each door to open up to another. And now, he's this mogul of sorts of his own little domain, but like someone on Twitter.
Let's not go there. But you were asking a question, George. I'm curious.
The question I had was I was just reading yesterday, and I believe it was the president of Sony Studios. It was in Bounding in a Comics, and I also saw it on We Got This Covered.
Tom Rothman?
No, I'll tell you just so I don't get the name wrong. Yeah, because the story was right up there.
It would be the other.
It said, unless I said, hold on. It's president of Sony Pictures Television.
Oh, television.
Studios, Catherine Pope admits Hollywood continues shows that could not possibly make money or bottom line because they are relevant. And so it goes into this whole thing. So I thought, is half of it what script said? Like half of it is they don't have the ability, they don't know how to write, and the other half just the politics? Or I always thought it was all the politics, and because of that, they're just hiring people with no talent, just people who keep carrying water.
Well, that's a good question. So there's always politics in everything. Politics comes down to perspective, point of view, and taste, right? Like that's the general aspect and definition of politics. We're not talking about party politics. We're not talking about government. We're talking about just politics is essentially opinion and taste.
Right.
Hollywood has always been dictated by that. Whoever is in the position making the decisions to invest in greenlight and go, they have their own taste that they think is going to be good. They can justify that their taste is good because they've attained the position that they have. It doesn't mean it's right or accurate. It just means that they screwed up less than anyone else around them. Essentially, like that's really what it is. But when you come into this section of like streaming services, here's the other part too. Writers have agents and representatives. They negotiate the best deal that they can for whatever project they want to do. In addition, you also have writers that are just starting out. Some of them have agents that are just desperate to get a job because their agents just need that commission, that 10% or 15%, and they will negotiate lower prices and rates, what have you, in order to get further into the door so they can land that show. Hopefully it'll be a hit. They can renegotiate and get higher wages out of that later. Then there's the other part, which is that most studios, they don't take pitches in the same way that they used to. As I was mentioning 3 years ago on Midnight's Edge and Midnight's Edge After Dark, Paramount was buying up tons of spec scripts. A bunch of those were Taylor Sheridan's.
Oh.
And we're seeing the byproduct of it right now. The reason they were doing that is because they had no ideas that for their IPs, they had some assignments that were being delegated by other studio heads for people to pitch their takes on their properties. Seth Rogen got in there, unfortunately, with Ninja Turtles. But again, they were basically saying, no, we will take spec scripts. We will take original content, scripts that we haven't seen before from any writer that can make themselves appeal valuable enough to be worthy to get into our door. And they bought up everything that they felt was good. They went into a lot of debt doing this, but it's slowly starting to pay off. Because we're seeing people are actually more interested in some of the shows that are being produced by Paramount, even though some of them are distributed by different distribution networks or studios in themselves. On the Sony side of things, they're trying to actually do a lot better. They're just trying to figure it out. But the current head of television, I don't think is going to be there by the end of the summer. I think they're going to be out.
But is this like the groundwork script? Like, do other studios, is like Disney, turn around and go, hey, look, they've gone back to the fundamentals of good television, good writing.
We've seen a few companies get rid of some of the...
Well, yeah,
but
Paramount, Warner Brothers are the first two. NBC is trying to slowly shuffle things around. They've got some loss leaders right now that they have to invest in for another year that are not doing well. Quantum Leap and Night Court are the two big ones that they're drawing an audience, but they're not drawing a good, positively receptive audience. But at this point, they don't have enough in the coffers to
Velma
replace them with right away.
How did Warner Brothers fund Velma? Like when you look at that on paper, it
was funded before Zaslav even got there.
Oh,
it's a cartoon. Cartoons take years to make before they actually get released.
And like Netflix, I keep reading that they're like doubling and tripling down on the woke because they need a lot of content. It's like instead of learning,
Netflix is weird, man. They're hit and miss. Like they'll go woke one day, and then the next day they'll have like some really good thing. It's like
they're all over the place. Same with Amazon. Like the stuff that's at low priority ends up becoming really great, but it doesn't break the internet, so to speak. Like the Terminalist did really well, but it didn't dominate the narrative anytime soon. Same thing with Reacher. Reacher did fantastic. Didn't dominate the narrative. That's good for those shows because they're like sleeping giants. They'll eventually get really popular by like third season or so.
Especially if they keep going and they don't get canceled.
Right.
Usually
Reacher has season 2 and Terminalist has season 2 coming out.
Right.
Yep.
But the thing is like, could you imagine Rings of Power that they dedicated $1 billion to and spent $500 million on? Well, you had Reacher still beating it in the top 10 in Nielsen's, and It
Yeah.
stunk.
Yeah. Well, it
Well,
just shows
again, that
that was
comes
the
down
better show.
to-
But
So here's the other part too, and you can quote that line from Andor, which is probably one of the only good lines in it, which is that power doesn't panic,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
A lot of the content we saw in streaming services is pure panic. It's slapped together. It's heavily done in special effects wise in post or re-edited in post. There's no heart to it. There's nothing to really keep your interest. The genres are bled apart to the point where you can't distinguish what they actually are.
Mhm.
It's all
It's like a
it's
stop
all
and go
muddled.
frozen burrito.
It is all muddled. But then you get shows that come out. You get shows that are like Tulsa King. You get shows Yellowstone. You get shows which I've mentioned a couple of times. I strongly recommend to watch, even though it's been canceled. Which was Turner and Hooch on Disney Plus. It was probably
Oh,
the
I
only
didn't know
good,
that.
well-written show by Matt Nix on that.
What about
Matt
Bosch?
Nix. What about what? Sorry,
Have you ever heard of Bosch? I thought it was a great show. I just finished watching it. Bosch.
It's who's in that? I'm trying to.
It's the guy who played the one who was in Lost. I always forget his name. The one who was the bad
He's in
guy with smoke.
Deadwood and stuff too.
Yeah, and in Deadwood.
Oh, okay. I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
John Locke. I don't know how
John
I
Locke.
remember that guy's name, the
John
character,
Locke.
but
Oh, that's the
Don't
character's
tell me
name.
what I can't do.
No, he's the guy that looks like an 80s porn star.
Oh, wrong.
It's with
Titus Wolliver, that's his name. I knew something like that. Yeah.
Titus
Titus.
Welliver,
Oh,
yeah.
wrong character.
It's
No,
been
Tom
on
Locke was the
now.
character he played.
7 seasons, and now it started a new season, a new series. It's called Bosch Legacy. I've been watching for years because the books are phenomenal. But it's like one of those things that when I talk to people, that I never heard of it, but it just keeps going. Just very
Well,
good.
it has that pocket audience that allows it to make it profitable, right? So it's probably just right under the line where it's like we can still keep making the show because we're still making money off it. People are watching it. The other part too is advertising, right? So if the show
Right.
doesn't have a big advertising budget behind it, not very many people are going to find it. So you got that working against it. But we have an oversaturation of content because that's what's needed to. Because the streaming services worked initially on the binging model instead of the weekly model. It's like, well, we're going to be burning through shows. We burn through a whole season in one day. How do we survive on that? And it's like, well, you got to make more. And
Not only that, it
takes a
caused
lot of
burnout.
time.
Yeah, but I would rather have quality than volume.
Well, that's the thing
That's
is-
the network model. The network model was on quality over volume because they knew, oh, if we're going to do a 22 episode series, that's 22 weeks of content that we have guaranteed. Now we just have to make sure it's the best 22 episodes because we're fighting against that time slot with everything else that's being aired at that in that
Yes.
period. Streaming can do the same thing, except it doesn't have, it's got this on-demand aspect to it, which means that you just have to be the best show so that they want to watch it right away. It doesn't matter if there's a competitor that's trying to be the best show as well on another streaming services, because it's all about, oh, we get the eyeballs to at least see the show. They come back here to see us. It doesn't matter if they leave for 30 minutes to watch another show. They'll be coming back again for another episode or
Right.
another show that's on that same streaming service. So if the quality is there and we're dropping it on a proper schedule where we can retain them every day, we just have to get them for one day for maybe an hour. It would be on average for one viewer. If they can figure that formula out with quality of writing, the streaming services it'll be like the old network days. You'll have 3 or 4 primary ones that dominate the market, but they'll all be competing with each other. We as the audience will benefit because we'll be getting very, very amazing shows. You won't have much filler. You don't have to worry about having to sit down and schedule your work week around a television show because it's on demand. You can watch it whenever you want to. So if someone tells you that morning, man, last night's episode, this was great, you're like, well, I got an hour free. I'm going to sit down and watch it. And we're going to talk about it with my friends. I don't have to go and wait for it to be re-aired on network TV in order to figure out what's going on. I can catch up right away. All those things at user control and user demand are what has been being discussed since 2005, essentially, when even the service providers were talking about, if we can make things more convenient for the customer, we will have the customer's loyalty for years on end. And that's why you started getting service providers saying, oh yeah, we'll do your cable, your satellite, your phone, your internet, all in one bill, one simple thing for you to do so that you can rely on us to take care of all your problems and you don't have to balance and
the all-in-one. I remember those.
All-in-one stuff.
Yeah, I still get it from Comcast because I use them for my internet, and I constantly get once a month.
There's so much more to this, George.
But
Like
when
there's
you're
so
in
many
that
layers.
panic and you have to make that content, you will grab anyone that is affordable
Yeah,
to
but see,
do your
that's the
show.
part that doesn't make, like, I'll give you
Yeah.
an example because I have a movie room. So my sister and her friends will come like once a month and I'm like, go ahead, whatever. I'm busy, just use the room. And you know what? They don't watch anything new.
Yeah.
They come and watch like The Office over and over and over. It's like great shows, people will rewatch them. When something
Yeah.
new isn't, I'm like,
I love
is
The
it fake?
Office.
Yeah.
I could see
There's
why.
depths to those shows. They elicit a feeling. They're not written for
Well-
you to have something to occupy time. They're written for you to get more out of it. Again, for content, it's like, okay, we just need someone who can write quickly, write fast, write well enough, and also write what we tell them to write without any conflict or any counter argument that says, no, this is terrible. We're not going to do why would we do a She-Hulk show about a lawyer and not do anything about lawyers? Like a good writer would say that. But
Right.
the writers, that team that they had is like, okay, sure, we'll do that. We're getting paid. Who cares? That's not the mentality. And when you have that argument in Hollywood, especially with producers that just don't care because their entire job as an executive is, we just need to get something out on the streaming service. It doesn't matter if it's good.
Shouldn't
It just
someone
has to be
pause
out.
right there and say, wait, this hasn't worked. Maybe we should stop and create a 1/10 of the content, but it's all something that everybody's going to talk about. It's going to be successful.
Well,
See,
should
that's a logical thing for business, but Hollywood, for any
You would
normal
think.
business that's run, Hollywood does the opposite. And
Okay.
the fact that they're able to be successful doing that bewilders everybody, and it should.
Oh.
But that's just the
Yeah.
case. Now,
Yeah.
what we have over at Warner Brothers is Zaslav kind of implying that's going to be the case. We're not going to spend $7 million on a number of shows that they're not returning more than $7 million back.
We'll see
So-
about that.
And we're not going to try and make
Except
all the
he
same
except he
mistakes.
got rid of Henry Cavill.
Yeah,
They
we'll
did
see.
get rid of
Yeah,
it.
we'll see about that,
that's,
George. We'll see.
Well, here's the thing, George. The script's right, and there's like this is a conversation we could have for an entire stream about
Yeah.
because there's a whole level to the streaming services. Because in that binge model, you also create burnout, which most shows have like their height and their fall off, which whatever. But like the other problem is then you have situations like look at Cobra Kai as an example of a show we brought up earlier. And this Tulsa King's another great example, even though this at least was spread out over the 9 weeks. The thing is now is how long we have to wait for another season is like almost a full freaking year, as opposed to like what Scripps talking about. The old model was the shows were set up to where the most you'd have to wait was like what 3 to 4 months in between.
Yep.
Oh, I can tell you, my aunts and uncles, they despise this whole waiting. They're like, we used to watch. You brought up Dallas. It's like we could go from Dallas to Dynasty. Like there was never like they felt.
Well, and
there
that's
wasn't-
that goes right back into what Script was talking about, and that's how those shows used to run. Is you had to have only 3 to 4 networks, and those shows were competing for everybody's time in the slots. And so you had to make a show damn good. And these shows back in the day that we've been comparing a lot of these shows to, we're getting audiences that make these shows look like chumps. Like that's what you guys don't understand. Like, yeah, people that would used to watch Dallas, like the whole, like everybody fucking watched it. Not like just some people. Everybody stopped and watched it.
A lot of people, yeah.
The entire nation of Ireland would shut down when Dallas was airing. I was there. I saw it. It was
Wow.
Easter, and the
It had an
whole
impact.
hotel went into the bar to watch it.
That's
I
so
believe it.
crazy.
When I went to Greece when Dallas was airing, it had such an impact, which also I guess doesn't show how smart they were at the time. Certain people, my cousins would introduce me like, "You're from Texas." They're like, "You have oil? You know JR?" I'm like, "It's a fucking show."
That's
It's
so
not
funny.
real. Oh my god, I got
I wish I had
in my
oil.
backyard.
But that's the other part too with the streaming services, especially now that they've realized that the binge model is actually antithetical to what they're doing, is the gap between seasons is so much greater that you end up
Exactly.
losing conversation in that time.
Yep.
So
Mm.
you have Stranger Things. Okay, you talk about it for 3 weeks. Then what? You wait almost
Then
a
what?
year before
Exactly.
you talk about it again. Whereas the old model, 1 week, 1 episode per week for 22 weeks, that's 22 weeks of it in the conversation. The only gap you have is between that last episode and the first episode of the following season, which is like 12 weeks.
Yeah.
Or at least in the old days, it was 12 weeks. Now it's
That's what I
12
mean.
months.
Yeah. Now it's more than a
Right.
few months, sometimes more than like a year, like I said. Yeah.
Sometimes more than a few months. In the rarities, I remember when The Sopranos took a break for a year.
Oh
Because
god,
the
I
writing
remember.
team said we have to make sure this next season is good. It's like that is unheard of. That is risky. People are going to stop talking about the show, and it almost did until that premiere episode when it kind of just bounced back, and I felt the sigh of relief in Hollywood that afternoon, that evening. It's like, oh, I'm wondering what's going on. Everybody's all stressed. I'm out to dinner with friends. All of a sudden, the stress just vanishes. And then an hour later, like The Sopranos just aired. Everybody watched it.
But
Yeah.
you nailed it on the head. And look, how could Amazon? I mean, I think Rings of Power. Y'all all know what I think of it.
Well, Amazon has a different battle too. The problem, George.
2 years off, the same way.
Well,
House of the Dragon.
that's a whole fucking can of worms. Excuse my French, but like in this sense, George, like Amazon has another level. See, Amazon has a problem unlike any other streamer, and that I think it's still almost over 20%, if not closer to 30% of the people that use it or more. Actually, it may even be more than that. Still don't realize it's a streaming service.
Thank God.
I know you laugh at that, but they don't.
No, I'm glad.
That's crazy.
Like, because when it first, before like a couple years back, the last time the original numbers were, it was like a 60-40 split. 60% of the people who had Amazon Prime never used the streaming side of it because most of them didn't even know it existed.
If they did, they would have watched.
Now it's like flip-flopped basically, but it's I don't know if it's gotten any better or worse. I think Lord of the Rings and some other shows have helped them. The other thing that's helped them is they pulled this a la carte bullshit too. But again, like I said, this is stuff it would take us a lot to get into more. So
Well, I have last thing to say about Tulsa King. I can tell you how much that I loved it is that it has an actor that I utterly loathe. The guy who plays Chicky. I can't, when I see him in a show, I'm like never going to watch it, but I was like, it's Stallone. I don't know what it is.
I love him.
I saw him in The Wire.
Yes.
I don't know. Have y'all ever encountered that? An actor?
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, but to me, he's more of a character actor that plays good characters that I love to hate.
I don't know what
he plays a good bad guy or a good, whatever to me, but I get what you're saying to a point.
I know exactly what you mean, George. I can't feel. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Like I have that towards some actors. I can't recall any right now off the top of my head, but I like him because of The Wire. So I actually liked him in this because I was like, oh, he was I really liked his character in The Wire. I thought he was great in that. But like I'm trying to think like who that is for me, but like, oh, like okay, Anna Kendrick. Anna Kendrick.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I can't stand her. Like no, not the Twilight girl. The other girl, the girl that's in Noelle.
Oh, I know.
I know who you're talking about, but she had a small part. But never mind.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like that other girl either, the Twilight girl. Like, I don't like her either.
No.
Like, I'm just like,
I'm more of like Annette Bening.
Kristen Stewart.
She just irks me for some reason.
See, irk.
Who?
That's a good word. Annette Bening. Irk.
Irk, yeah.
Which
Annette
one?
Bening.
Annette Bening.
I don't believe anything coming out of her, and that's kind of bad.
See, that's the same with Chicky for me. I think now I've never met the actor. I feel like that's just who he is, a dick. Like he's not an actor.
For me, that's Meg Ryan. Like, yeah, there you go.
Oh my God, yes, Tom. Meg Ryan.
She is the most insincere actress I've ever seen in my life.
I did like her in When Harry Met Sally. I did like that one.
Yeah, she's all right, but that.
Go ahead, my God, and that face with her.
Yeah.
Good point.
My friend, this is how I always act, and everyone loves me. That's my Meg Ryan.
So she did take a while.
I thought you were Meg Ryan for a minute.
I thought you were Renee Zellweger for a second.
She did take a really. I can't recognize Renee Zellweger. She took a.
Renee looks awful now. She looks just so bad.
We have to have a show about that one day. There's just a lot of.
I know.
Why do these actors get plastic surgery when they've seen the other 100? It doesn't work out.
You live in that bubble. I don't know.
I know.
Script, do you have any reason why they do this other than just to look young?
To look young, which
right, but if it doesn't work, if it worked, then we go for it.
No, but the thing is, it's the Emperor has no clothes. They do it, and then everybody's like, "Oh yeah, it worked." But no, no, it didn't. I'm so sorry,
you got to remember, these are the same people that you could talk into doing like TikTok shit and making them think it's like going to cleanse them of the fucking whatever. Like,
oh my God, she was in Twilight. Yeah, you're right.
That's what I was saying. I know her from Twilight being the sidekick, and she stole the whole movie.
Oh my God, dude, I had forgot she was in Twilight. What? Oh my God, that's hilarious.
It's like, haha, you're so funny. She was great. Yeah, she was the only real best part.
I hate both of them.
See, there's a reason why Riki is the profession of failed actors in North America.
Yeah, Script knows what I'm getting at here. It's like they're always the ones to jump on these stupid fucking trends that everybody else will finally look at and go, that's fucking dumb. Like, why would
Oh
you
my
do
God.
that to yourself? Like, that's because somebody convinced them that because they spent,
It's like
couple
shit.
$1,000 on some guy to come to their house and do this ritualistic thing, and it changed their fucking life because they don't want to look at the fact that they just wasted $1,000 on this shit.
Or they did Botox and it worked well for a while, and then they kept doing it, and things got worse.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
say
Once
what
you
will
cross
about-
that line, like
Say
there's
what you
no
will
going
about the
back.
personality of Jane Fonda. She hasn't had any work done in any severe level by comparison, and she still looks really good for her age.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like
But
There are
she's
some
starting
people
to
that can
get there
pull-
though.
yeah.
Script.
Mhm.
She's starting to get there with the
Oh,
think it's
mentally she's kind of
Botox.
checked out.
I
But,
can't
like,
stand
it's
Hanoi
always
Jane,
done-
but I
yes,
see what you're
Hanoi
saying.
Jane.
Hanoi Jane.
Vietnam,
yeah.
never forget.
But even
man.
even Sly has had some work done.
But
I mean, they
Yeah.
all do
good.
it.
He
They all
looks
do it.
good in this, and that's what I loved about it. It's I didn't realize that he did his own stunts. I read a New York Times interview. With can't stand New York Times, but they had an exclusive with him. And he's had like two spinal fusions. He's like been.
Oh, he was
really-
always getting
Damn.
fucked up
I
during
hadn't-
Rambo and Rocky.
I didn't know
Sorry
that.
again for my language, but yeah.
I had
No,
no
sorry.
clue.
to do that. You're costing a stunt performer their pay that day, and two, you're risking your own self on it. Like it's
Yeah. Not everybody's Tom Cruise. Everybody calm down.
Well, even with Tom Cruise, he still has a stunt guy that does some of the higher
Really?
risk
Some of the
stuff.
crazy
Oh, I
stuff.
thought he
Yeah.
Yeah, they
did it
have
all
to
now.
legally.
They have to.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
Oh, I
like
thought
he's
he did
old.
it all. No, I
No,
thought
he
he
does
did
a
all
lot.
of it.
No,
Oh.
he does a lot. Like for certain stuff that has to be him,
Yeah.
he will do. For the stuff that doesn't have to be him, that's also dangerous.
Yeah.
They get someone else to do. Tom
Oh.
appreciates that because if you take a look at his stuntmen team, they all love each other and they all know what they're in for. They know, oh, Tom Cruise is going to be on the motorcycle, dropping a ramp, then doing a parachute thing. Cool.
Yeah.
Do I get? Does he need me to do that? No, he's pressing it. Okay, what do you want me to do? You're going to do this thing where there's a car accident.
Mhm,
you know,
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna
Tom
be in the
Cruise is
car
not gonna be behind the
accident.
wheel on that.
Yeah, you're gonna be
Yeah.
in the
And Tom
squish
Cruise is
scene.
kind of the exception to the rules sometimes too. In that
He's like
respect,
Buster
but,
Keaton in that way.
True. It's true.
like he
Yeah.
goes
Well,
a
they
little
got
bit farther than he
liability
kind of has
insurance.
to. But yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway, that's how much I love Tulsa King. I hate Chicky.
Well, then the actor's doing a good job because you're supposed
Well,
to.
then that's good that they casted him as the bad guy because you're
Yeah.
supposed to not like Chicky, so that's
know.
okay.
But I don't see
Um,
Chicky. I just see this fucking actor that I just.
Little
I
bitch.
see what you mean, George.
I know
Yeah,
what you mean,
sometimes you
George.
can't get past that. It's
I can't.
it's-
I
have to
know.
skip forward.
even if
I
they're
know what you
playing
mean.
somebody you're not supposed to like. I get what you're saying,
Yeah,
George. 'Cause
okay.
you want to like your villains. I get you.
Yeah.
I totally
Yeah,
get you.
I get it. I
Yeah.
completely understand too. Having said that though, thank you everybody for joining me today.
Yay.
We can
Yes.
go on talking about like this kind of stuff for hours and hours, but I
Hey,
wanted
yo.
to end the Tulsa King review, at least like this one review. Maybe we'll do another stream about it at some point down the line. But for now, that's our thoughts on Tulsa King. Highly recommend. Go watch it. But before we leave, let's everybody have everybody plug their channels. Tom, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah.
Please let everyone know where they can find you.
At your local discotheque, I will be doing 4 shows a week. No, you can find me at Midnight's Edge After Dark, of course, and wherever else I land.
There you go. Yeah, and we're gonna be hanging out tomorrow night on Midnight's Edge for Toxic Femininity. And Teresa, tell everyone where they can find you and what you got coming up next.
Okay, well, you can find me here in Miss Smart Muses, where I talk about what makes me laugh, makes me cry, makes me happy, makes me sad, or just really ticks me off. I have my Wednesday content coming up, likely to be another Tolkien letter, but I am working on some music analysis, particularly from Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Yes, I will be able to talk to aliens because I understand what was going on. So I'm making a
Oh.
video about that. Irish
Mm.
fairies, as well as our continuing live stream about the Wish Song of Shannara on Saturdays at 11 a.m. Central.
Cool. Very awesome. Thank you.
Spoilers, they
Teresa.
were just ordering from McDonald's.
Well, were they? Were they?
Do 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 is I want a quarter
Yeah, well, but the
pounder
alien
with
modulated to
cheese.
minor. So maybe he
Yeah.
wanted a milkshake.
thought you were
Sorry.
No, I thought you were gonna say, I want a Big Mac.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, baby,
I want an
to all
ice
be
latte.
thanks.
Well,
Sausage.
okay, well, watch the video to find out.
I'm just
but
Yeah.
it's
fucking
definitely
around,
a lot
guys.
more
I'm
dull than
goofing.
that.
Yeah,
No,
we're
but it's
messing.
interesting. All I love that movie for that reason, Teresa. Like the whole the
too.
mathematical, like musical language thing.
Love
is
that
great.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm
Oh.
walking through that. I'm going to walk you through the whole explanation of what was really going on, and then at the end, the climax when the French dude talks to the alien, what they actually said to each other. And of course, I'm going to be doing some more Teresa travels and learning
Cool.
castles next.
Awesome. Thank you so
Mhm.
much, Teresa. And then we
Thank you.
had George, the Giant Slayer, who joined us a little bit late. But George, tell everyone where they can find you and what you got coming up next.
You can find me on YouTube on Georgia Giant Slayer, Twitter, Instagram, the same thing. I'm working actually on a Tulsa King review, and after that, Yellowstone. And so I'm really happy to be here. I'm thrilled to be here. I've
Good
missed
stuff,
you guys.
George. Because you better be joining us for the Yellowstone discussion.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, because you
Hell
told
yeah.
me about that to watch that the first time.
Absolutely.
And then we got Script Doctor, last but not least. Thank you so much for being here. Tell everyone where they can find you.
Well, thanks so much for having me. You can find me on Twitter at ScriptDoctorPhD. I do have a YouTube channel where when I'm waiting for meetings, I end up playing a video game. And you can watch me live stream it from there. And I also have a Patreon where I do screenplay reviews and tips and lessons on screenwriting and how to better yourself as a writer. We just did our first month. I'm so grateful for all the patrons that have signed up. It's been a blast entertaining you all with my knowledge and talking about subjects that are outside of the normal realm of terrible Hollywood entertainment and showing you that Hollywood in general has been pretty lousy for the majority of the time. The good stuff that we see is a blessing, and the average stuff we see is just less terrible than what's actually circulating around the industry. So if you want to get more information and exclusives on that, you can join my Patreon. It's got a bunch of levels. Again, I have reviewed the pilot for Taylor Sheridan's next big show that is coming out called Lioness. You can get my thoughts on that. And as soon as the show premieres later this year, I will be releasing the original screenplay of that pilot that got greenlit and put into production. So then we can do a comparison to see how much has changed since the pilot.
And we'll have to talk about it on here too. That'll be fun.
Yes, absolutely.
That'd be cool. And of course, I want to take the moment to give a big shout out and thank you to Gary from Nerdrotic for joining us today. It was awesome to get his take because I know he really liked the show as well. So it was really cool for him to come by and talk with us about it. So make sure you guys all subscribe to Gary if you're not already, which that would be crazy if you're not. But his links, as well as everybody on the panel, is in the description down below. So make sure you're subscribed to them. And just this last quick thing. Was anyone aware that the Grammys were going on tonight? I didn't know that. That's hilarious.
No, I didn't. Jeez, I completely forgot.
Nobody cares about
I completely, I used to watch that religiously with my family, all the shows, Oscars.
Me
Golden,
too. I did too, George. Me too.
Well, it's hard to watch the Grammys because music hasn't been produced properly for 20 years?
So long. Yeah. Like that was the first to go. That was the first award to be like,
but it's shocking. Don't you find it shocking? Like my family, when I was growing up, would get dressed and have people over when the Oscars were coming. Like they'd all sit around.
Yeah.
It used to be my Super Bowl, man.
Yeah, have all my friends get some pizza.
Yep. The good old days.
Now I'm like, that's the night to turn the TV on.
I mean, this year they'll have a bump. I think they'll have a bump in the ratings this year, but nothing to really truly brag about. But that's just because the movies that are nominated are stuff that people have actually seen. No, I think it's because the movies are stuff that people have actually seen, and that's just because they had no movies to release in the last year. That were
Maverick only got like 2 or 3 nominations. I thought it would
4. I think it was total. But
Best Picture.
Nah, best. Like this is just my guess. Everything Everywhere All at Once. No, Everything Everywhere All at Once will probably sweep most of the Oscars. At least win over half.
It got
of what
11.
It's nominated for.
I think it got 11.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, Maverick was a fun movie, but it was not Oscar material.
If anything, Maverick will take home. It'll be like a sound or something like that.
I think Avatar got. What was it, 5 or 9 something? It got half of whatever.
Avatar will win special effects.
Yeah, probably.
And they probably deserve it.
Won't win editing, that's for sure.
Yeah, no.
I can't believe they're nominated for Best Picture, though. I was like, Best Picture.
That's why I thought
Avatar?
when I saw Avatar. That's why I said, why didn't they put Maverick? They never put any Tom Cruise's stuff in.
it just didn't make sense to me. I was like, Avatar, like that's a sequel movie too. Like usually they don't do like sequel movies to stuff for Best
It's
Picture,
rare.
but it's like whatever. Like it's pretty rare for them
The
to
Dark
do
Knight
it.
Not
got a
the
bunch of
Godfather
astronauts, that
2,
was a
you know.
sequel, yeah.
Yeah,
You see,
exactly,
you
Teresa.
have the Lord of the Rings thing too, where they will, because I believe the first Avatar was also nominated and didn't win, right?
Mhm.
Where they'll nominate each one of the movies, but they'll end up giving it to the last one because then they know it's over. Here you go. Here's your
Body of
award.
the work.
Okay.
They did that to Return of the King because
that's
every
true.
one of the Lord of the Rings movies was nominated for all throughout, and everybody's like, it's not gonna. It won a few here and there, but it never got Best Picture and all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
Finally, for Return of the King, it swept the Oscars that year. Like it was 10 awards or 11 awards, something like that.
Well, they did that for a
they
couple of
swept,
reasons,
yeah.
which is they couldn't have Lord of the Rings win the Oscars 3 years in a row.
Why not?
Well,
it's internal politics.
It's all politics.
the
in
exception
that
to
movie,
that
yeah.
is Godfather 1 and 2, but like that's a few years in between as
They're
well.
a few years
so.
apart, so yeah.
Well, I have to go see Everything, Everywhere, whatever. I haven't seen it yet. Everything, all the time.
I liked it, but I had my issues with it. But yeah,
I liked it too, but it was weird. Like,
Worth
and it
11 Oscars?
takes a minute to get into. You're like, at one point, I was just like, "Whoa, man! Like, this is really everything, everywhere, all at once." Like, my eyes
exactly. It really has everything that the Oscars usually go for, and it's safe enough that they can get away with nominating it. And and I hope, if anything comes of it, it's like a step back in the direction of we need to nominate movies that are not just, gay cowboys eating pudding, as South Park would put it.
Well, yeah, that makes
100%.
I would be rooting for Michelle Yeoh because I like her, but after
That's what the Oscars used to be. Is
like
like
she did Witcher Blood Origin, so I'm like, yep, you lose.
Yeah, you're kind of like,
she's gonna win. I'll tell you, she's
George.
gonna win.
She's also in Discovery, man. I was just like, nah, like, no.
Like you're burning your cred with
But this
me.
conversation here is what the Oscars used to be, right? It used to be people would talk about the nominations, what's going to win, and everybody had their favorites, and there was at least a handful of movies that everybody saw that were nominated to where people could talk about it, and the hosting was different. The music
and a
was
lot
set
of
up
people
differently,
actually cared about some.
It was more like a roast in a way.
Yeah, I would say this. I want the days of the Oscars when you had like Amadeus, Chariots of Fire, Beethoven. Like they were movies that everybody saw, and they were, you know what I mean? It's like I
they
don't know
stopped
any
doing
other
that in the 90s. I mean,
Weinstein
movies
changed it.
I didn't see because it's like, well, everybody worked so hard on these films, nobody saw them. Well, we got to give them something. Okay,
There's
well,
that
the Academy. I mean, that's one
Mm.
argument for it. There's a whole slew of others. Because essentially award shows are like a popularity contest, and the Oscars were trying to essentially say, well, it's now an unpopularity contest.
What happened,
the more
the overarching,
the better chance you have of winning.
The overarching thing I would say that happened, aside from what Script is talking about, as far as like, oh, we got to give these lesser known, and this is kind of the pre-woke era of Hollywood doing this kind of shit. So we got to give these other lesser known movies and little, actors and actresses more acclaim than they're getting. You had what I call English Patient Zero. And what that is when Harvey Weinstein came in and realized, oh, if I spend a buttload of money at greasing the wheels of everybody in Hollywood, Shakespeare in Love can win Best Picture.
Oh, I'm still bitter.
Oh, for years you had just about every single Weinstein, every single award went to like a Weinstein picture.
Everything went to that fucker.
Saving Private Ryan, and that's why they all stayed quiet, because they don't give a flying FUC -- but I add an extra letter there. They don't care. They don't care. They don't care.
You should have just said
that
the
they were raping everybody.
KING, because he dashed out the ing.
You're right. There we go. But yeah, it's just disgusting. And that was also, I think, when the meritocracy, if there was much of a one, and the Academy Awards ended. And Return of the King to me is when the Oscars died. It was like, yay, we did it. There was one more good thing that they did. Screw them for the rest of my life.
I agree with you, Teresa, wholeheartedly. Like, I was one time it broke through. It was like, okay, one time Weinstein wasn't able, and it was kind of an FU to Weinstein because he was a producer on that, but he wasn't the ultimate, because Robert Shea kind of stole the production from him and made it 3 movies instead of 2. So they got more of the acclaim. So like, yeah, it was kind of one of those moments that kind of, I'm sure, stung him a little bit. But
Oh my goodness. What an
Yeah,
interesting
no, it's a
conversation,
whole.
you guys.
Like I said, yeah, so we could go on for this for hours. But thank
We
you, Neil. This
really
has been
could.
fun.
You
We gotta
guys have
keep
been
going here.
absolutely awesome. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, everybody, especially you guys in the chat. Thank you for watching.
Yay.
Thank you for super chatting. If you became a member, thank you, thank you, thank you, extra thank you. And if you just hung out with us in the chat, thank you, thank you, thank you as well. And until next time, we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys. And we're going to be reviewing freaking Yellowstone very soon. Stay tuned for some announcements and things like that. And we'll see you guys next time. Let me see. What should we go out on? Naked Tom Hiddleston?
Oh, I was gonna say for me.
Yeah, sure. All right. Later, guys.
I'm so sorry.
I'll survive.
I don't doubt it. You're an excellent specimen. I thought you were empty.
I just moved in.
I'm Charlotte Melville.